Welcome everyone to the Maxroll Vessel of Hatred podcast. We are going to cover our first impressions and ideas of the Dark Citadel, Kurast Undercity, the Mercenaries, Spiritborn. We're also going to talk about the new seasonal mechanic a little bit. And then at the end, as always, we are going to have a chat questions section. So if you guys have anything that you want to know about either something that we're going to talk about today or that you have not found on the internet yet, you can save those up and ask them later. And yeah, maybe a short introduction of everyone. Lucky, then Woody.
Hi, I'm LuckyLuciano. I played a lot of Rogue in Diablo 4. I was part of the early access, review access for the expansion and played a ton of Spiritborn, about 70 hours there. So really excited to actually have everyone be able to play that class, and ended up writing a few guides for Maxroll on it. So that was a lot of fun. And I can't believe the expansion's a day away, but I'm going to be ready to blast that once that comes. So we'll look out for you all there.
All right. Hey guys, I'm Woody. All the same that Lucky just said. Basically, I've been also blasting the Spiritborn. I've written 7 guides for the Spiritborn now for Maxroll. Those are going live as we speak, kind of. And I'm kind of overseeing all of the Spiritborn stuff right now, and in general, the whole Diablo branch on Maxroll. So that keeps me busy until launch.
Okay, thank you guys. I'm Chronikz. I'm also part of the Maxroll team. We blasted the review access as well. I'm responsible for the Necro guides on Maxroll with a lot of other creators. It's not only Macro BioBoy at this point, it's also Zarok and Lord Zora. So they're joining us there. I blasted a lot of Spiritborn as well, but I'm not writing guides for it. And yeah, we are also just now updating, or we have already updated quite a lot of the Maxroll guides, not only the end game, but also the leveling guides. More to come as we are finishing up the last little touches. And we also obviously have the tier lists and all the endgame and pit push tier lists, and also the leveling tier list for you guys to have a look at. So that way we can actually provide the content and you guys know of. And let's actually start with the first topic. We have the Dark Citadel. So, of course, as I wrote, if we stray away from the topic and cover something else first, that's totally fine. Let's just keep it going naturally. How did you guys like it? Maybe Lucky and DieoxidE. DieoxidE would be nice. Lucky and Woody, how did you think the Dark Citadel is going to be? And are you happy with what you thought it is going to be when you saw it live? Or is it going to be something that you are not really looking forward to and want already some changes? Maybe Lucky, you go first, and then I want to hear Woody's opinion on it.
Yeah, so I think you guys played it together, right, for your first try. My first try was with it was actually with DM and Riker, and we just had kind of a blast figuring it all out. The thing was, my character was so much stronger than theirs at the time, so I couldn't really get a good gauge for the difficulty of it because I was just one-shotting everything. But the thing that was interesting about it was you couldn't just one-shot everything and actually get through the Citadel. You had to participate in the mechanics, otherwise you would wipe. So even though my character was really strong, if you didn't do what you were supposed to do in the Dark Citadel, you weren't going to pass it, which was cool. It was interesting. It was kind of what I was expecting. I thought that maybe the requirement to have a bigger party could have been incorporated better. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but a lot of times it was just you both have to stand on a switch together, and that's how you progress. And so the fact that they make us bring someone along just so that you can both stand on switches, I don't think was the best integration of forced party play, but there were a lot of things that were fun about it, where one of you gets sent to another realm and you have to fight off hordes to bring them back in, and they bring back an essence and they have to deposit it, and it was so fun figuring out for the first time. My concern about it would be replayability, and maybe I know you guys tried T4, I haven't. But it seemed very, very difficult. So I think maybe it may pose more of a challenge in that higher difficulty. But that remains to be seen for me. So I've got to try it out. Once you know the puzzles, yeah, my concern is how fun will it be to play over and over again? But my initial reactions were it was super fun to play for the first time, and I think everyone will enjoy it. It's not like anything we've seen in a Diablo game up until this point. So for that, it was a fun, unique experience for sure.
Yeah, I echo most of this sentiment. It was really fun trying to figure it out for the first time, especially doing it on voice comms with like Chronikz and Condes, and like we were just hanging out, having fun, going through the thing, and they had already seen it once before me, so I was just kind of the newcomer in that group, and they let me do all the mistakes basically, which was kind of funny. And then we did the same later with DieoxidE. So yeah, that was kind of cool. And yeah, actually, like when it comes to difficulty, I think Torment 4 will not be trivial at least. So I think doing something like a Torment 4 Citadel run might actually be like a valid kind of season objective for a lot of people. Like, first of all, getting to Torment 4 and then also being strong enough to even like go through the Citadel. It's certainly, harder than the typical, content that you do. So it's not like, ridiculously scaled up or something, but you have to deal with the bosses and the mechanics while also fighting Torment 4 monsters, and this is not really super easy. And especially some of those bosses actually have pretty high damage output. There's one in particular that has been a point of discussion for us, because we're currently preparing for like, hardcore Torment 4 Citadel run that we want to do, like, like a rush to Citadel of Torment 4 basically. And it's like, oh man, how do we do that? And we actually have to like sit down and figure stuff out for that, and in order to not do it. So especially from a hardcore perspective, I'm actually very excited for it. But overall, yeah, I'm not sure about the long-term replayability. I guess it will probably mostly depend on rewards. At some point, it's kind of, okay, it's like one of the things you do, here and there. You blast through it once a week if you log in, and then you get some reward at the end. I mean, that's okay as well. It doesn't have to be like the Omega challenging, like crazy content like forever or something. So that's fine, I think.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad you bring this up with the replayability, because I do think that, especially for the first week, too, everyone is going to have a blast and go through it as much as they want, right? Which is also a good thing. I had this question come up a couple of times where you can do the Dark Citadel as often as you want, and you're also getting your rewards, but that weekly cash at the end that is extremely powerful, you can only get once a week. So I'm a bit curious how this is going to pan out over the course of the first couple of weeks. I do think that even the rewards for the weekly cash after like week 3 or 4 for just one character are not usually what you would go for. But then again, at week 3 or 4, you're probably already off to your first alt anyway, which you then want to do the Dark Citadel on, I would say, right? So it's kind of like helping you get up a character again and make it very strong. So I do like the rewards that we get for the once a week thing. And I'm curious how it's going to be received in terms of the party focus that we just said, because obviously without too many spoilers, there is definitely some things where you need to cooperate, and not only having someone with you in a party, but also not being able to directly talk to them could pose a problem. When it comes to that, for the difficulty for like the randomly thrown together groups that we have with the party finder. So which thing in particular what's your first top tip when it comes to the people that go into the Dark Citadel for the group finder? Can you shoot from the hip here maybe?
If you see a portal on the ground, stand on it. Like that took us a minute to figure out that just all the time these portals are just appearing on the ground, and you have to stand in them to go to the next place. And if you don't, you're going to be separated from your group, or someone's going to get left behind. And if you see that stuff on the floor, just go for it. Just go in and don't look back. I think it's going to be difficult without voice chat, at least for the first time. I think, after a couple weeks in the season, everyone's going to kind of know, and pickup groups will succeed in the Citadel pretty easily. But man, for those first attempts, like if you're trying to figure out the mechanics and not having that communication with each other, I think people will struggle.
Yeah, I think it's going to be okay. Number one tip I would give is probably always look at the objectives, because you have like kind of like the quest on the side that tells you what is going on. Like, defeat this guy, break the barrier, whatever. And you will understand from that what you have to do. It's usually also not like very precise timing you have to follow or something like that. So it's like, okay, you have to do the thing, but it's like very forgiving, I guess, with the timing. As long as you actually have the DPS and the survivability to go through the thing, you're gonna be okay. As long as you keep an eye on that.
Yeah, that's actually very good. With just go through the gateways. It's definitely something that I'm trying to not like giga spoiler here, but sometimes things look more dangerous than they really are. They are really more helpful than they are dangerous to you. So that's kind of the funny part sometimes. The quest look tip, I do have to echo this. Look below your mini map, because it is the quest log or the objectives or whatever is the absolute MVP in the Dark Citadel. It is so incredibly helpful. If you don't know what to do, if you take a close look at that and then compare the symbols, it's going to help you for sure. The rate marker feature is also something that I think is a great addition, and I'm also happy that it's only usable in the Dark Citadel. But I would like to have that it actually marks where my mouse is, not directly in front of my character. I think that would be much more helpful if we could go and be like, okay, mouse over here, and then press the button to actually put the rate marker down when it comes to maybe guiding someone to a certain objective, or maybe showing your intent of moving somewhere. I think that would be a little bit more helpful in that regard with the mouse over things. In terms of group composition, do you think that we're moving again?
Oh.
In terms of group composition, I mean, okay, at the beginning it's going to be 4 Spiritborn all over the place, everywhere, anytime, anywhere we go. But do you really think that there is like a certain class that can benefit from their skill set in the Dark Citadel when we're looking at it, going into the Dark Citadel? Is there something that your class should bring?
Well, I mean, like, I guess the class that generally has it the easiest in these kind of things is the Sorc. Because Sorc has Teleport and Flame Shield, and both these are very valuable tools when it comes to like these scripted fights and boss fights, and like any kind of like one-shot shenanigans that are going on and these kind of things. So you can also do this with, like, for example, Lilith, right? Okay, as long as you have any kind of DPS, then a Sorc will always defeat Lilith pretty easily just because of those 2 skills. So I guess they will probably have it the easiest, but outside of that, I mean, there's not really a huge requirement for anything. Like, everything can be done with literally just moving and evading, I would say. And you don't need to bring anything besides like kind of like a certain stat check, I guess, to like, take down the bosses and, not a ridiculous amount of time, and actually like survive a hit or 2 or something like that. Then you're probably fine.
Lucky we can't hear you.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sorry. Yeah, you'll be able to clear it pretty easily, I think, on T1 with whatever you bring in. I think once you get to T4 is when you're really going to want to be optimizing your group and sort of min-maxing that. And I think I like what you said about the Flame Shield sorts. You want to have someone like ready to revive your party members as they go down, because like you'll get wiped sometimes, and you'll definitely want to assign roles to people, and you're going to want to be working well together, and be on voice probably is the most powerful tool that you could have at your disposal when you get into like that difficulty over a specific comp. Like, as long as you're all carrying your weight, whatever difficulty you're at, you should be fine. I don't think you need a specific class.
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys also said this, because I already saw when I was browsing Reddit in preparation for the podcast and stuff, I was like, a lot of people go like, oh no, you need to play Spiritborn to even get somewhere. So I wanted to kind of like make sure that everyone just plays what they have the most fun with. And it's not kind of like being forced to something that they don't really want. For like the pickup group, let's say you're 2 friends and you're trying to find 2 more people. I'm really curious how that's actually going to go for all of them. We did have a lot of fun just exploring and figuring stuff out, or letting the person that hasn't done the raid yet figure stuff out and then tell the others what to do. And I do really hope that a lot of people that go into the Dark Citadel with pickup groups join the voice chats that are in the game, maybe even go outside of the game, and then just go and figure it out together. I'm really curious because I'm definitely going to do that. I will roll a softcore character and I will do that and just go into the party finder and see what it's all about. That is definitely going to be something that
you don't trust hardcore to do it.
I don't. No. Sorry, I'm not going into the hardcore party finder. No,
that's gonna happen. People are gonna be trolling like the party finder on hardcore. And getting groups flipped. I could see it. DM was talking about it.
Yeah,
we were going through it.
Okay, the thing is, like,
it's at your own risk.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm looking forward to also like having that because. I think this is the first opportunity I actually get to interact with the casual player and see what's going on, kind of like peek my head into there and see how is this, right? Because I feel like I'm very isolated when it comes to that. And I really want to see how that goes and how that actually plays. I'm really looking forward to be a part of that for now.
Yeah, I think the party finder, it will be okay, especially because the Citadel exists on all tournament difficulties. And if you are like in the tournament 2 or tournament 3 or whatever, like, halfway through your progression, let's say, like you can even go to tournament 1 and do the Citadel, and it's going to be really easy. And okay, you will wipe to like a certain mechanic you didn't know about, but then you do it again, and now you know. And the next time you go in, you're going to do it on tournament 2 or on tournament 3. And then, okay, even though everything is harder there, you actually have seen it once, and okay, yeah, this works this way. I have to go there. I have to click this thing. And that alone is already, so valuable that, on the second and third round and so on, as long as you understand what's going on, it's going to be way, way better. So I think even in Party Finder, it should not be a huge issue outside of people actually griefing you.
Yeah, there's definitely potential to actually do that. But then again, on softcore, it's hopefully going to be from a fun perspective and not actively sabotaging the run. That's probably not going to be the best experience there, I do have to be honest. Now, with the rewards versus time invested, I do think that we talked about the weekly cache a little bit, but the Dark Citadel coin caches and the coins that you can farm by defeating the monsters and also doing the little bonus objectives on the side, how do you feel about those? Where not only the reward itself, but also the refarmability of the coin caches or the coins and going through the raid over and over again. Is that something that you look forward to, or how do you feel about this being in the game?
Personally, I would say it's kind of whatever. So I'll probably just not use the coins and just wait until I have enough to get the kind of transmogs. And I get those at some point, and then I will just never care about them, I think.
Yeah, the only thing that I could see grinding the Citadels to be worth it are for those scrolls that reset your tempering, depending on how easy those are to find outside of the Citadel. Like, I know the Citadel is a pretty good place to farm them, and I think you can use the coins towards those. But another thing I'll say is that my initial reaction is that it's not going to be worth the grind, but we didn't see like the final state of the rewards in the early access. We were told that it wasn't giving the proper reward, so it should be more than what we experienced. So it's hard to really like have a set verdict on it at this point. The only thing that really pops out are those like scroll of reforgings for resetting your tempers, which seem like a very valuable item, and they will be valuable to a lot of people. So if that's where you have to go to get them, then people are going to go and get those scrolls. But that's kind of something to look out for.
Is it? You guys have to help me out on this one. I actually don't know it has been changed quite a lot. The scroll of restoration, is this now a one-time use per item, or is that did they lift that? Okay, so it's once per item.
My understanding, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Perfect.
Yeah, so even with that limitation, like you don't even have to grind them. Like, you get a few scrolls here and there, and how often you really reset your tempers anyway. So I don't think that this is going to be a huge deal even.
Yeah, that's true. Like on the review access, I was really happy to get the scrolls because we were staffed on a lot of iron chunks and whatever. So I was like, oh no, I need to re-hit this exact item because it's already 4 out of 12 and it was so costly on the review access. I was like very happy to get the scroll of restoration that early actually and be able to have that part of the rewards in the Dark Citadel. So that's definitely something that I would like to also be able to grind out and have ready in case I need it. But then again, I do have to agree that you probably don't really need more than 5 to maybe 10 at absolute maximum for a character over the course of its lifespan in a season. So depending on the availability outside of the Dark Citadel, maybe you don't even have to go.
I'm going to use more than 10. I'll tell you right now, I'm going to use a lot more than 10.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. I go through a lot of items. Maybe not if it's the same as the review build. Like, it was, for anyone that, if it hasn't been made clear, it was brutal playing the review build. Like, the materials that we got, they were so out of whack. It's not going to be like, come launch day, but
yeah, it was a bug. So
it was bugged.
Yeah, yes.
So yeah, it was like it was impossible to find like resources to make your items. Yeah. But I am expecting to go through many items, and if I don't hit my tempers, then that's it. I got to get a new one. But now I get 2 shots at every item. So I definitely expect to use more than 10. But
okay. I also see a lot of questions. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
And I just wanted to follow up with the scroll. Like, people didn't seem to understand this. So the scroll is once per item, and it's consumed when you do that. So you get like a double the amount of tempers, basically.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying, Woody. Actually, that's good. So for the next topic, Kurast Undercity, I wanted to get a temp check on that one because I'm a huge fan of the Kurast Undercity. I do like people comparing it to or saying that's the Gauntlet 2.0, the Gauntlet but in fun. What's your guys' opinion on it in terms of your first impressions when you saw it for the first time? Maybe Lucky, you go first.
I think that's the perfect explanation of it, honestly. It's the Gauntlet, but it's worth doing. Like, again, it was bugged a little bit when we played, but even still, like, the rewards for it were very, very good. It's fast paced. It's going to reward a certain type of build and gameplay, and it is going to be the best place to farm certain materials and certain things in the game. So you are almost going to want to be tailoring a build to really be able to farm them well. And I could see it creating like build variants just to farm things like the Undercity, because it's going to be one of the best places to find like boss summoning mats, resources, materials, and the whole idea that you can actually target farm in the Undercity too. Other than like if you're target farming a unique item from a tormented boss, like that's going to be the best source of target farming that you have. And being able to farm the Undercity well is going to, I think, reward you the most out of any of the end game that we're going to see in season 6. It's kind of like how Infernal Hordes were in season 5. They make the new end game kind of like the best place to farm. That's going to be Undercity in season 6. So you're going to get very familiar with it and how it works.
Yep. Hi, DieoxidE. Thanks for
welcome.
Thanks for fixing your issues quickly. Thank you so much.
Man, I was in an infinite loop.
You made it though. You were stuck in the Citadel, in the other realm.
We didn't open the gateway. Yeah, maybe. How are you doing, DieoxidE? All good?
Yeah, I guess now.
Yeah,
I don't know what was happening, what was going on, but restarted my computer twice, and apparently that worked. Turn it on again.
I guess before we get too deep into the Kurast topic, maybe DieoxidE should explain his first time in the Citadel.
Yes, that's what I wanted to segue
Oh man. So apparently they made me raid lead, and I ended up killing my party twice, or was it twice or 3 times? I think it was.
Yeah, it's fine. It's on the level. It's fine.
They legit did not help me at all whatsoever. So like, as a first time experiencer, like it wasn't really easy. Like it wasn't really easy to figure out like immediately. So it actually took some time to actually kind of learn the mechanics and whatnot. So it's not one of those things you're going to just walk in and be like, oh, obvious. Let me just hit this or push that. You have to kind of like really take a look at it. Almost like a escape room almost type thing sometimes. If you're a first time enjoyer, but it was fun. I never got a chance to play with the hardcore group, so that was a ton of fun.
Great. To catch you up to speed, we did the Dark Citadel topic already, and thanks for sharing your first insights. Lucky, if you could like TLDR your points real quick for the Undercity again. So reward, or I'll do it. Sorry. The rewards are great. It looks like okay. DieoxidE to put on the glasses now too. So there we go. And yeah, rewards are great. Target farming, it feels like Gauntlet 2.0 in terms of the build that you need to go fast and be successful in it. Woody, what's your take? Kuros Undercity.
I really like the Undercity. Like, I don't really compare it to Gauntlet. I don't think it really has much to do with the Gauntlet, to be honest. It's just like, okay, there's a timer that ticks down. I guess that's like really the only similarity there. But it is pretty fun, and I think a lot of people like the Undercity. It just kind of feels good to blast through it. There's like no loot to pick up. You know, it's kind of a little bit like a pit run, but without the need to look into every corner to find the last elite pack, which is great. And yeah, you get actually like big rewards, and you can target farm. I'm really excited for the target farming stuff. So on the early access, it was buggy or not really like fully done or something. But yeah, what they showed on the preview in the season campfire, it looks really cool. Like, I'm very excited to like kind of like SSA my way through, and you know, eventually I'm gonna have like all these materials and tributes, and then it's gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna just like pump, you know, gloves until I have like my greater affix skill rank glove, and then I'm gonna pump amulets until I have like double or triple passive amulet or something, and I think it's gonna feel really good. So I'm looking forward to that.
It definitely is a lot like Gauntlet 2.0, but like way better. I do like the fact that there is strategy between like being greedy and actually like just kind of getting the rewards towards the end. I was pretty much greedy all the time, so I ended up failing like half the time because I was just like, oh, I got time. I can just do this real quick or get that thing right there real quick. And yeah, that was not the case. So I like the fact that there is risk versus reward in there, like in that. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And also the target farming is like crazy, like especially for amulets trying to get passives, man. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I did a couple of runs on the review access for the skill ranks on the amulets, and then when I did it the first time, I was like, okay, let's see what I get. And then one amulet dropped, also other stuff dropped, but the one amulet that dropped was not ancestral, and the passive skill rank was 1. And I was like, oh no, I had my expectations set up way too high, but obviously that's how you're obviously going to go and experience it. But I was like going in, I was like, yes, let's go. My skill rank GA ancestral item with 3 as a baseline. And yeah, and then I went in, I had 1 amulet, and then it had a rank 1 passive. But then again, it's a great addition to the game, and I do really like it that we do have multiple venues now of actually target farming. You could, I think, call the obol vendor a little bit of target farming too, right? You kind of get your obols, and you get your desired item slot at the very least, but then obviously Kuros Undercity just takes it to a whole new level when you also put the bargains on top. I wanted to also get an idea of what you guys think of a mythic tribute. Is that something we could see in the future? We do have the unique tribute that is there. That is doesn't
that already mention that there's like a chance for mythics or something like that?
Exactly. It has a chance for mythics. But then again, how could a mythic tribute look like? What would you guys want from the Undercity if that was the case? If we had a mythic tribute?
I mean, it can add a lot of things there. It doesn't have to be just a mythic. It can make all kinds of tributes that allow you to target farm certain things. And yeah, I mean, it could be like, it's like a super rare drop. Imagine this is like maybe a bit more common than like a natural mythic drop, let's say, right? And then you have to go and do the thing, and you get like a mythic at the end. I mean, why not? Or you get a spark or something. That could also be cool, to be honest. That's like a really rare drop that happens, like once every, 50 hours or every 100 hours or something.
Especially with the risk to reward you have now. Are you going to take the mythic tribute and are you going to try it? Or are you going to sell it and give it to someone else who can then try his luck, right? I do think that's kind of like a cool...
tributes?
I'll be honest, like when we think of the Undercity, you have to think, okay, what is the next best way to get this item, right? So if I'm thinking, am I going to farm the Undercity for a mythic unique, or am I just going to spam Duril over and over again? Now I can spawn him nonstop on repeat and literally drop them in one hit on T3, T4, that's probably still going to be my best shot of getting a mythic unique. Maybe it might be better use of my time to use the Undercity to just farm mats to do that instead. Like I feel like you kind of have to weigh the risk reward of whether just because you can do something in the Undercity, should you, and is it really the best use of your time? Like, sure, they could add the chance to drop a mythic unique. If it's not guaranteed, it's probably a good shot. It's not going to be as efficient as just spamming tormented bosses, but that remains to be seen.
I do think about the fact that like there is fun factor involved. Like maybe someone doesn't want to spam Duriel like for hours on end. Like if it means that I have a shot at doing something else or getting something I might want in the content that I much prefer to do, then it's always kind of nice to kind of have that option, even if it's not the most efficient one.
And different builds, right? It favors different builds than like just a boss build, right? Which you would need to do a tormented boss. So I could see the value there too, but
because I mean that would be my case. Like there's only but so many boss runs I can stomach before I'm just like, all right, I know I need that mythic, but man, I'll just try again tomorrow. We'll do something else.
Do you guys think every class will be able to farm like T4 Undercity pretty comfortably?
Oh man, I feel like that question is directed to me.
Sorry.
I had a look at some speed farm necro builds, but I gotta be honest, it's not looking good for us. I gotta be honest. I would, in the case of that mythic tribute, if I only had a necro, I would definitely go and sell it. I wouldn't risk it. I would probably see the 5-second starting timer on my necromancer, and I would say like, Woody, here, do you want this?
5 seconds starting timer. Yeah. I mean, it could be, to be honest, like the idea of like mythic tributes or like just any other like kind of weird tributes, right? They could do like really funny weird stuff, and they have like the system where they can make these special rules depending on what tribute you put in there, right? Right now it's like very simple. It's just like a time penalty, and then you get like less extra time. But there could be other stuff, right? You could literally like alter the run in some way, like there's like new types of elites or some environmental effect or whatever, right? And maybe something else going on. I guess then we're back to Nightmare Dungeons, I guess. But either way, it's like there is like a way to like really add to this system. That's what I'm saying. So that could be really fun. But yeah, like on topic of the like classes, and like does everyone have like viable Torment 4 builds? Yeah, absolutely. Torment 4 is not like a crazy bar to hit, I think. At least if they're good builds on each of the classes, they're gonna be just fine there. And okay, like some classes will go faster, like the Sorks are super fast, the Spiritborns, and maybe Necros are a little bit slower in like their average completion time, but in the big picture, this doesn't matter too much, I think.
Yeah. I really like that the Kurist Undercity is starting out this strong. Yeah, as Woody mentioned, there's a lot of stuff you can actually build upon with this. And I mean, I really like to bring this up as like when we look at the Helltide in Season 0 and Season 1 and what it is now, the evolution that the game mode has actually done when you're starting out Kurist Undercity this strong already with so much potential with the tributes and the bargains and everything else. I am really much looking forward to what there is, not only playing it when we get the chance in the next couple of days, but also what it is, how Kurist Undercity is going to evolve over the next couple of seasons and the additions that we're going to get, hopefully, to that mode. That's going to be something that I look forward to doing as well, because in my opinion, I do think that Kurist Undercity is going to be the mode for me that I like the most coming with Vessel of Hatred, looking at everything that we kind of have, like mainly comparing to Dark Citadel. I do like the Undercity probably the most because maybe it's just the zoomer brain that gets the most dopamine out of it compared to the Dark Citadel. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's definitely my favorite when it comes to the new game modes. Speaking of new additions, Mercenaries. I know Woody is a big mercenary unenjoyer. I wanna let him go first on that one.
You can say hater.
Okay. Did they win you over with the new Mercenaries somehow?
Okay, so I thought it would be worse, let's say. So generally, I really enjoyed the kind of like solitude I had in Diablo 4, as opposed to like Diablo 3 and Diablo 2. I mean, Diablo 2, I don't know, like most of the time, if you don't care about your mercenary, then he just dies. On the other hand, in Diablo 2, they're also kind of OP. So it's like you can either do no mercenary or like, go all in, I guess. In D3, they're just kind of like there and don't do much, but they give you like a bunch of buffs. And I guess we're kind of like in the D3 system now. It's just like, okay, they're running around. They're actually invincible. You don't have to gear them, which is kind of comfy, I guess. I would hate to gear up my mercs as well, to be honest. So I think that was a good decision. So yeah, you get some little perks. But realistically, I would have enjoyed it just way more without any mercs. I was kind of like fearing this day, but here we are. On the other hand, yeah, most of the time, they're not very impactful. So they're just kind of like there and not do much. So that was my impression.
I really like Diablo 2's version of Mercenaries, and this is not that. It's kind of the same as D3 Mercenaries. The thing that I really dislike about D3 and D4 Mercenaries is that you're playing solo a lot of the time. I think most people, even if you like group play, you play solo the majority of the time. You have a build, you can make a mercenary for your build, and then you get into a group and your mercenary is gone, and this whole aspect of what made your build function in some regards, like people are going to be using Rahir to get resistances or armor, now is just gone, and you have almost a hole that you have to replace, and you kind of have to re-gear around it, and it's just really counterintuitive to me. I like the reinforcement tool, because that's kind of cool, because you can use it all the time, and it really does, it plays into your build. So that is interesting, and I like that. The bartering system is kind of nice, at least in the review build. It was nice because it's like the only way to find items or like target farm and get materials. You just spam the bartering salesman and get the things you need. But I think the implementation of mercenaries is pretty lackluster. Like, you don't get to put items on them. They just kind of buff you, which was my fear, that this is what the mercenaries would do. Their only purpose is to buff you. They don't really contribute much on their own. And it's just kind of another way to get stronger for yourself. Whereas in Diablo 2, you could have a mercenary that literally just carried, like, you were the mercenary, and your mercenary was like the main character vibes. Like, it was pretty wild, and I like that. I feel like it opens up a lot more for cool and interesting like build types. But like, I could see you completely ignoring the mercenary like mechanic in Diablo 4 and really not even noticing it. It doesn't really feel like it's that impactful, but.
To pick it back off of you, Lucky, the whole idea of building around or having your skills built around a certain mercenary. That's exactly what happened with me when I went to go raid with Woody. Basically, I had really crap gear for most of the review, and I had to use the 15% all res to be able to cap for content. So when he wasn't there, it was very obvious.
Yeah.
That I was just getting one shot about things I just wasn't getting one shot about before. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I didn't have a mercenary or whatever. But I mean, you were, but you're totally right though. Like it just feels like a slightly better Diablo 3 followers, and it's just really not that interesting, to be honest. They actually do okay damage leveling up though. That's probably the only time where you actually see some use where they have to kill something. But the best part about the mercs for me, honestly, is the backstory. Like, actually, finding the mercs, and being able to see what they're about. I'm not going to spoil it, obviously, but I thought that part was cool. But past that point, it was just kind of meh. Seriously. I forgot to.
I actually do have to agree with that point. I found the story and kind of the what they do. Like, as someone who actually doesn't really care too much about the lore, this was actually kind of nice. And they have they have a character and you know what they do and so on. So that's kind of nice. I think with a little intro quest compared to D3, where it's just okay, you just take them and they follow you around and they have a little bit of a small talk and that's it, right? So that's it's not much better for sure. I think that it was definitely a huge mistake from the devs to introduce something like armor and resistances as a passive buff to your permanent follower because of what exactly DieoxidE just said. And I think that's gonna mess up so many people. Like, that's exactly what's gonna happen to so many people, and everyone's gonna complain, man. Oh man, I can't play this in party now. I want to do my boss rotations and now I get one shot all the time. That's gonna be so miserable for so many people, man. So I think this needs to change very soon, to be honest. And they just need to replace it with some other passives that they can add on right here or something that just forces people to actually fix their res and all, and then you have like consistency. I think that's really a huge problem, because otherwise people are always gonna be like, oh man, now I really have to find another item I'm gonna replace only when I'm playing party. I mean, no one's gonna do that, right? So, and I guess last point for this would be also, I would really appreciate if there was like some kind of like lone wolf option in the future. Maybe since they just buff bots anyway, why can't we have like some other like no mercenary gameplay kind of option where I just don't have a mercenary and I get like some other small perk? I would actually really appreciate that, to be honest.
That's like how the necromancer works, right? If you choose not to have minions, you get like
exactly,
a
man.
something.
That is actually. We have the technology, actually.
Yeah.
just sacrifice him.
Sacrifice the merc. Yeah, and then depending on which one you sacrifice, you kind of get something a little bit. When you don't have to sacrifice them, but you actively decide to not play one of them, and you kind of like get at least maybe a smaller buff than you would get if you would play it. But at least for people that do not enjoy mercs, they wouldn't be forced to use one. I guess that would also would have been my point with the lone wolf buff. I'm not the biggest mercenary enjoyer, but I do have to be honest. Even me, someone who doesn't really pay that much attention to story, I know what they do and why they are here, and I think that is a very good feat of strength if you make me understand why they're there and why they join us. So that's definitely a good portion of how they have delivered the story.
Yeah. It makes you want to hire them until you realize what they actually until you realize what they do, right? But like they really sell you on it in the beginning. You know what I mean, with the story and stuff. But yeah,
I mean, during leveling, it's a little bit different. Yeah, as you said, DieoxidE, the leveling part is going to be pretty nice because sometimes they do actually quite a lot of damage, and then you can actually make use of Altkin's vulnerable, or you can make use of the attack speed and the movement speed that you can get here or there. So actually, I think during leveling, it's going to make a huge impact. And then later on, it's probably going to fizzle out that a little bit like that. Okay. So
I have a question before we move on.
Sure.
This is for Chronikz. Do mercs count towards minion number?
Oh, I am going to be testing way more stuff than just that. We do have the Ring of Mendeln. We do have the Ring of Mendeln buffs. We're gonna make Variana proc Mendeln for tons of damage. So you gotta look forward to that. We do have the Spirit Wolves already proccing Ring of Mendeln. I would be sad if we can't make Variana help us too with Ring of Mendeln. And then if that works, then there's going to be other scalars that also work. Shade Mist is there, which is also working with your Spirit Wolves, which is that little aura around your minions. Kalan's Edict now also gives you a multiplier per minion you have, so maybe that also counts. It's going to be a very interesting time to...
I'm pretty sure the devs already said that they're not minions. I don't know if it's like this is a joke or something, but yeah, they... Of course, now what the devs say doesn't mean that that's necessarily the case. So probably always worth testing, but I remember them saying that. I think someone asked in one of the dev streams.
Yeah, we are, how do you say? We are experienced enough with the pet, and when it was disabling one of our Paragon glyphs and the other stuff, and when it was suddenly when we had a cat running around casting Blood Surge. So I'll double check as soon as everything goes live. But yeah, it's definitely on the to-do list for sure. Now moving on, another awesome new addition to the game, Spiritborn. We have, I think, Dai, have you played Spiritborn? And did you get time to try it out a little bit?
I didn't. I had
Didn't you do a lot of
real
rogue
life
stuff?
stuff that was going on? Yeah, I just stuck to rogue for the review.
Yeah, gotcha. Because there is a lot of synergy going on with the different spirits that you can combine in your class mechanic and have tons of tags that you can apply to your different skills. I wanted to get the first impressions after you guys got your time with the Spiritborn. Maybe Lucky, you can let us.
Yeah. So my favorite part about the Spiritborn, and I think a lot of people on this call can relate, because coming from the rogue, if you wanted to get defense on your rogue, then you basically had to sacrifice an offensive aspect to do it, right? You know, if you wanted to get more bulky, you had to sacrifice in one area. There were very few options on rogue where you kind of had defense and offense combined into one. Maybe things like Dark Shroud, where you get a little extra crit chance or something like that. But the Spiritborn, it's like completely designed to both give you like a huge defensive boost, and then your defense kind of becomes offense. So you can take an aspect like unyielding hits. And it's like, okay, if you have a ton of armor, then guess what? Your armor is going to get converted into attack, and you're just going to absolutely blast. Or like Viscous Shield. If you have a barrier up, based on how much percentage of your barrier is like your maximum life pool, then you're just going to do like 30% more damage. It's so easy to build. You don't have to worry about sacrificing too much of your strength in order to get all of that survivability. And it's so easy to just stay alive on Spiritborn. Like, without getting into too deep of the mechanics, it rewards you for making your character like tanky and strong in a lot of cases, because everything just synergizes really well together, and so much thought has been put into that. I was really worried about having so few aspect slots, again, coming from rogue. You lose two aspects, by going from having a two-hander and two one-handers to just having the two-hander. I was so worried about that, but they made up for it and compensated it so well with like the tools that are available to Spiritborn. And I think, for people trying it out for the first time, it's really fun. I'm just really excited for other people to like finally get in and get to try it, because I know not a lot of people have yet, and I think it's one of the best design classes that they've made. Really, it was the most impressive thing about the expansion to me, over anything else that was added.
Yeah, there's a funny question in chat. So it's idiot proof.
In a lot of ways, yes.
In other ways, also no, because I just want to show this real quick. That just comes to my mind here. It's like, okay, you guys can see this, but the chat can see that. It's like the mechanics section on, like, for example, my Quill Volley guide. Where I started putting in like a lot of these, like, how stuff actually works behind the scenes kind of things, and it looks kind of hilarious. So yeah, either way, I do agree with what Lucky said though. Like, I think the class is very well designed, and there's like offense, defense stuff definitely is true. Like, you can scale dodge into damage, you can scale block into damage, you can scale, barriers into damage. So this is actually like true for all mechanics that exist, I guess, besides the resistances or something. But yeah, like basically anything else, it's kind of like there's a way to scale it, and in some cases they even combine multiple of them in the same build. But yeah, overall, I mean, Spiritborn was just a blast, I gotta say. I tried so many builds on this review access, and then later on, like, I just started cooking the planners that I had already, like, let's say, preheated. And yeah, that was a ton of fun. And now writing the guides, of course. So yeah, very excited to jump in and actually blast more with Spiritborn. Like, I was making these planners, and after it was done, I was like, oh man, why didn't I do this? Like, after I had played the review, like, oh man, I really want to log in now. And then I made the next planner, and I was like, oh man, I need to play this now. It was like, fuck, like, what do I do, dude? Like, after every build I finished, I was like, man, I really need to play this now. Like, I was so excited about it. Oh man.
Yeah, it's definitely going from seeing it being previewed with your event back then in Seattle, then going to Gamescom, getting my hands on the Spiritborn there, being able to play, although level 30, but it was still amazing what you could do, the amount of synergies, the amount of combinations possible. And I'm always a huge fan of stuff of offense that scales when you build defense. I'm a huge fiend for stuff like that. I don't know why, but to me it always feels extremely rewarding to have mechanics like this on your character. It I don't know, it just makes it feel good. You're not. That's why I like Overpower so much. You get rewarded for getting and getting more max life, therefore doing more damage. So stuff like that always feels great to me. And then I'm a huge fan of Quill Volley in particular. I like to compare it to Bone Spear 2.0 basically, where it's like it's like pseudo ranged, but you kind of want to be close still. But even for me, as someone who likes being ranged more than they like being melee, being melee with Quill Volley is feeling still amazing, because you have that little shotgunning effect. You have all of these projectiles bouncing around, coming back. I'm having a blast on Quill Volley, and I'm also looking forward to playing all the other build guides. Touch of Death is hopefully something that we do not see in the future. We'll have to see when it goes live how that's going to look like, but I hope it's not going to be as impressive as it was.
What do you mean? I just spent like 6 hours writing a guide. What do you mean?
With the bug in mind or without it?
Well, I'm not 100% sure what is actually like buggy about it or something, but I mean, either way, it's like a pretty fun build. So it was just like kind of pumping, and I think people are gonna enjoy it. And it seems very strong, but so does Quill Volley, and they seem to be like relatively even, I'd say. So this is just kind of like the top two, I guess, on the class. And I mean, in general, the balance is a bit whack if you compare it to the other classes as well. And maybe they're going to do something in the future. But I guess for the launch, it's going to be like all right, I guess. Just some strong builds, and they can still tune it later, I think.
In comparison, when you were joined by 3 Spiritborns DieoxidE, did you feel like any big difference when you go like, oh, I'm definitely here at a disadvantage or something like that? Like disregarding different gear levels or so, like just the possibilities that the class has. Is there something that you, when you played with the Spiritborn, had a feeling on?
It was interesting to see the health bar go down before they're staggered. Obviously on a rogue is like it's just like nothing happens. You're chipping out the health bar on the rogue, until a stagger, and then once the stagger, all the health goes down. But it's like we never got to stagger, so it's like I never did anything on any of the bosses. It's just like, oh well, I was just here to kind of offer visual support,
do the raid leading,
from the end. But I mean, it was just crazy just to see how the fact that the Spiritborn in general, it seems like across the board, it doesn't have to, stagger to actually do something on like big targets, and I'm sure that probably feels great, right? Like to play. I wouldn't know about that, but
that's a really good point. And I remember like really loving that, and it's like I stagger, and I don't even really notice much of a difference now when I stagger a boss, which is such a great feeling. Coming from Rogue, gosh. Yeah, it's just pure damage all the time.
It is kind of strange also. I do agree. Like it's like I have a lot of rogue enjoyers here right now, and rogues just have like this eternal struggle with the bosses. And after like a year of feedback, like nothing has ever happened to that system. So I'm like, okay, I guess here comes another 1 year of staggering bosses for the rogues. Other classes just don't do that. And I mean, there is some stagger synergy on some of the Spiritborn builds, but it's not like nearly as bad, I guess, as on the rogue.
Okay, I'm very excited, especially for the reception of the player base. So many people have been asking the question, oh, is this build good? Is Gorilla good? Is that good? Is Centipede good? I like Eagle. Is that going to work? So I'm really looking forward to how the masses are going to receive the class, and how many. I mean, if you make a poll right now, who is going to start Spiritborn, it's probably going to be like 75% Spiritborn, and then the others are like the rest, right? And I'm really curious where Spiritborn is actually going to end up in like Season 7, Season 8 in terms of not only the power ranking, but also popularity. That is something that I'm really much looking forward to. And that probably just goes to show how important it is to add another class in 1 year down the line. So we have this new big hype moment again when everyone yearns for that new class, Yeah,
I gotta say about this, I think there's something for everyone in this class. I mean, it's generally like a pretty fast and versatile class. It reminds very much of the Diablo 3 monk, or just rogue enjoyers will definitely enjoy the Spiritborn. But outside of that, I think it has like a lot of variety in the playstyles. So you can do some really wacky stuff. You can even go for like hit effects. Like in fact, like we are starting the Maxroll Vessel of Hated branch now with I think 9 endgame Spiritborn builds. I think. And we didn't even do stuff like Andarios. That is certainly, not a terrible build to make on Spiritborn. But we didn't really have like the resources now and the time to do that. But certainly something I will be exploring when the season launches, and this might actually be like a season guide, season 7 guide or something. And then what else we discover, right? So we're already starting with like I don't know 10 builds at least that exist on the class that are all like the Tom and 4 plus capable, I'd say. And that's a really good starting point. And there's like basic attack builds. There's all the core skill builds. There's like the touch of death stuff, the payback stuff, and if they ever like start updating a class and actually like build on what we have, there's like certain combos that kind of like keep coming back in many builds, like Word of Kepideke and Midnight Sun, or like the Hunter as like the ultimate skill that is like in many builds, and the other ultimates are not really great in the late game. So I had like trouble, for example, using any of the other ults in any of the builds. Besides maybe in leveling or so, like I put like Devourer into the Stinger guide and in leveling, but not in late game, right? So this is kind of like how that works. Like Hunter is like maybe too strong, maybe the others are too weak. And if they ever go and actually make ultimate base builds, we have like even more builds, right? I would love something like a Devourer build, man. Like you summon the centipede and you empower it, by doing something, and it's just like Giga Blast and with the laser, right, or something like that. That would be badass, I think. Kind of like in the cinematics, right, where you summon the centipede and he comes out, he does the spit, and like this kind of stuff. But it's unfortunately not a thing right now.
Well, so, it's a good point. And if you think about it, though, like how many people have actually been able to play the Spiritborn? Maybe a couple hundred. And if you consider like Gamescom or whatever, maybe that goes to like 1,000 or like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are now going to be able to play the Spiritborn. And who knows what kind of builds are going to come of that. Like we could have only possibly tested so many different variations. There's something out there that nobody has discovered yet. And I'm really looking forward to like what comes out of this season and what crazy builds like that we haven't even seen yet come, like an ultimate build like you're talking about, Woody. Like it's going to be cool what the community does with the class. And I think that's really fun to look forward to.
Yeah, having like I was at Gamescom, I was a little bit sad that we couldn't have multiple of the same ultimate out at the same time. I was like, and that's unfortunate. Like imagine 2 centipedes if you get like the cooldown reduction to actually pull this off. Yeah, and then that could have been maybe the direction of getting.
The cooldown is not a problem.
Yeah.
So it's just like the limitation that you can't have more than one, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
But it would be badass, man. Like running around with like 7 centipede spirits and like shooting lasers everywhere, man.
Exactly. Or even
that'd be such a giga chat build, man. I would play that.
Yeah, or so even cool. Becoming the centipede at some point. Just literally becoming the centipede with an ultimate with a unique or whatever. Yeah, the possibilities are endless. Yeah, this is probably easily the most synergistic class that we have in D4. I think Druid is like even far behind in terms of like all the out of the box thinking that you have to do when making builds. Spiritborn is definitely still on another level when it comes to that, and I'm really enjoying the class for just that. And mobility, the monk playstyle is also like definitely had a little bit of like influence on it, I would say, for sure, when it comes to that. Okay, the season 6 mechanic, the Realm Walker. I don't know. There's probably a lot of complaints already from the videos that have been posted. I do have to be honest. The rewards look amazing to me. I'm a huge fan of the stacking seething opals, but I wanted to hear more about this. Maybe DieoxidE, you can start off with this one.
You mean the Realm Walker itself?
The Realm Walker, the season mechanic, yeah, that kind of like ties into it. Like,
I think it's kind of cool because it's definitely a bit different than like the other things that you do. Like you can't really directly attack it. It spawns several different things in which you have to kill while everything else is trying to attack you or flank you from behind and things. And then of course other people are coming in that can also contribute to that randomly. It's like, I got your back while you do such and such. It's actually kind of a really different, I guess a different activity in general. The Realm Walker is something that reminds me of the D3 Realm Walker, of course, but just like way cooler than it was in D3 itself. But I mean, I think the rewards itself were fine. I may not be something that I would do like a ton, but definitely, especially if you're wanting to continue to, Paragon, right? Like let's say you want to do some XP runs or you're trying to really get your Paragon up. I mean, that's an activity that you're going to want to do because you're going to want that XP buff, like for sure, right? So like there's purpose behind the activity, but it's not a necessity. You don't have to. So like I think activities like that are good for the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, my impression of the Realm Walker was that I think after season 2 theme, it's the best so far. Like I really enjoyed the Realm Walker stuff. I did it a few times, and it was a kind of a cool little event. You go there, I was always alone, but in the live server, there's going to be people there, and it's going to feel much better. And then the rewards are pretty good. I think the opals, especially like the boss material opal, and there's also one for like runes. I think that we didn't get to try, I believe, but it's going to be in the season.
Yeah, runes wasn't in there at the time.
You get like extra boss materials all the time. Like I had so many boss mods, man. Like I didn't farm anything, man. I didn't do hell tides. I didn't do whispers, and I was like farming bosses whenever I wanted, man. It was really good. And these are chain bosses. Like so
that's a good quality of like to. I'm sorry, I'd like to segue off a little bit. The fact that like, let's say if you're like solo players, where you want to group up with people to kind of do rotas, whatever like that. Like you can farm enough boss mats in general to where if you just want to do them solo, they're so kind of easy to obtain now, where you're not necessarily forced to be in a party and be like, well, I can only do 2 because I only have this many mats. So it kind of actually felt great to be able to chain them solo, even though obviously it's still way more efficient in groups, but it's like I don't feel like I have to per se, if I'm someone who hates to play groups or something like that. But sorry.
Rather than giving my opinion, because I mean, I'll just say like they felt slow and a lot of the opals were broken, and I felt like they weren't really that rewarding. But obviously, they're going to be fixed when the season launches, so it's hard for me to really say they're rewarding when the version we played they weren't, and I wouldn't have done them if I didn't have to. Did you guys choose anything besides the tormented opal, or would you like? Do you see a scenario where you're going to like? Is it
runes?
Is there really a lot of variety?
Runes. Yeah. Definitely runes.
I guess it depends on the drop rates and stuff, right? Like there's also like
which we haven't seen.
Gold, one for mats. Yeah, exactly. So we don't really know how good they are, but either way, you get some stuff extra, right? And that's already something. And you know, it's worth like taking 5 minutes to like pick up like 5 opals or something, and then you have
5% XP hours. But yeah, see, the thing is, it didn't feel that quick. Like if they felt a little slow to me, having to go through. And again, I was always solo, like all of us were for probably the most part with those. But I don't know. It just felt like one, you're waiting there, and there's really not much you can do. It's nice that they did kind of think of it, and rather than like when you're waiting for the world boss and there's literally nothing to do, they spawn like a few minions here and there while you're waiting. But otherwise, it's just kind of a lot of waiting around, waiting for these things to spawn, and then you finally go in and do like a dungeon. It's I don't know. It doesn't feel like anything really new or exciting in terms of content, but I think the rewards are worth it at the end of the day. Like even just 5% XP when you're gonna be grinding these paragons up to 300, like every bit of XP matters, and all the XP bonuses are multiplicative and everything now, and it'll add up over time. But I didn't feel like I really needed to do them in the early access, at least.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing though, because like it's okay for content to have certain niche things where you're not compelled to have to do them, whereas like, oh, dang, I hate doing this activity, but I don't have a choice because it is by far the best thing at something, right? I think a lot of these new activities in general almost don't really feel like that. Like DieoxidE, like you don't necessarily have to do it, but it's fun, and it's like super fun for groups. And as a solo player, I had a blast doing them, but you don't have to do them, right? So like, I'm not saying that the rewards can't be better, but I do like the idea of if I just want to experience something different that can be rewarding in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not the best, most efficient use of my time, but if I'm playing the game for fun and that's it, sometimes I just want to go and like, see what the Realm Walker is doing, right? And I can get something from that. So I think for like the majority of the player base, I think that's a cool thing. But if you like a super efficient blaster, and like you say, I have 1 hour and 34 minutes and 23 seconds to play, I need to do this particular activity and this only because I only have this amount of time, then yeah, I can probably understand that point. Then it's like, okay, Cuirass, Undercity, that's it. That's pretty much all you got, right? So
Undercity is a good point, especially when we're talking about these opals. I think they're also a little bit counterintuitive to the player base because like you use this thing and you think things are going to drop, but in like half the areas that you're going to be farming in endgame, they're actually not going to drop like until the end or something, or sometimes they don't drop. And I don't know. I feel like maybe they could have just been like automated into your inventory, regardless of what you're fighting. Like not actually a drop on the floor, but you just kind of like get it as a resource, so that players are actually seeing that these opals are doing something, rather than they pop an opal, it says monster's going to drop gold, and then they don't. And when you're playing through half the content, and it's just kind of like counterintuitive. I don't know if the implementation was the best. I think a lot of people are going to be confused by them. But they'll figure it out.
I was certainly confused the first time around when I was in the pit, and suddenly like I killed the elite and it popped out like 5 living steel, and I was like, what?
yeah. Is that supposed to happen, or was that a bug or not? Yeah, that was strange.
Oh man,
it's a good point.
Yeah, I do have to agree with the length of the event. I would have loved to maybe shorten the time. Like, come on, man, that thing is so big, it can easily walk a little bit quicker. Like it's come on. It can definitely go a little bit faster. It can do that. And then my problem was you get it drops a portal, and then you go in, and then you fight a completely irrelevant zone. And then you go into the next portal, which is like, why is this zone even there? I don't know. Maybe that's...
Yeah, I don't understand the portals either. Like, I thought the same thing. I'm like, why do these exist? And like, they're usually in parts of the map where you have to backtrack. And you're just like, do I even want to go in that portal? Because I already know it's like useless.
Yeah,
it's a good point. Yeah,
you go into a portal, you get like 3 artificer stones or something. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I wasting my time?
It was like a waste of a loading screen, really, honestly.
Yeah, like
I mean, if you complete like it's like basically just one room. There's like one pack, and you move on, right? It's like, and then sometimes there's some other funny stuff that can appear
puzzles
there.
And
yeah. It's basically like a cellar, like a beefed up cellar. Kind of, right. But I mean, if you do this in like 10 seconds or something, and you get like some little reward for it, I think there's some extra reward tied to it, not just okay, there's a pack and that's it or something. So you have like a bunch of random little stuff basically they can get for like a few seconds, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, we have to see. I didn't do it on Torment 4. Maybe this is going to kind of magically improve it to a point where I go like, oh yeah, you want to really have as many monsters present in that realm as possible to get something out of it, or like get, I don't know, more opals or whatever, and we'll have to see how it goes. But like in general, I'm a huge fan of having this option presented to you to be able to kind of like equalize your character or your account's state. So if you're like, oh, for some reason I do not have gold right now, you can go for the gold opal, right? You can also, if you're like low on materials, you can kind of offset that's what you're currently lacking. I'm a huge fan of this, and I do think that is going to help the casual player quite a lot. And then what I also really like is that you are probably going to have quite a lot of those for your second character, which is going to help bring up these alts in level, because they stack with your potions, they stack with your incenses, and they also stack with the new experience well. Whereas on the first playthrough, you're probably not gonna have a seething opal up all of the time if you're not really going for it, right? I do think making it a little bit faster for the alts to level, and also more enjoyable by a boss mat popping or by additional gear dropping, I think that's a huge quality of life feature. And I do have to agree with Woody saying this is probably the best seasonal mechanic that we had after the season 2 mechanic. I'm a huge fan of this. Really excited to try that out. The only thing that I don't like about this is that you need the seething opal active to get reputation with the Zaka room. I didn't understand why that is the case. We didn't have that in the past, and I think that's also going to catch some people off guard, especially if you don't really pay close attention to your buff bar all the time. You're gonna run the whole day, and you're gonna go and at the end of the day go to the reputation board. You're gonna click it and like, wait, I didn't do any progress. What happened? I think that's probably not the most ideal thing when it comes to the opals. So I wish we would have had kind of like a permanent reputation gain, maybe a little bit less in terms of balancing it out. Really not sure why they did it this way. Another topic is the rune words. We've been blasting through the topics much more quickly than I would have expected. So I wanted to cut.
Well, if I have something, then it was based on something that you talked about, and,
Yes,
and I think
please.
I think it's really important actually, for everyone listening and coming into this new season. And you brought up not being able to farm on T4, or at least you didn't try to farm the realm walkers on T4. I'd like to get everyone's opinions here on how important is it to be farming on T4 versus T3? Like what is your initial feeling based on what we've played so far? And should players really strive for T4 farming versus T3 farming? Is the difference there? Is it meaningful? And maybe give it like a gauge on when you think they could be ready for it, or when it would be actually proper to do so. I think that would be valuable.
I realistically, there's really no reason to do T4. I mean, T4 is clout. That's it. Like you can pretty much do anything you want to do in T3 for the most part, and you'll have a much bigger selection of builds that would be able to comfortably play T3 content, and that's pretty much it. I mean, there is some difference, obviously, in terms of rewards going to T4, but your build needs to be pretty busted to be able to make that efficient doing it in T4. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think if you just want to enjoy the game and maybe you want to try more than just a handful of builds that are just, Omega busted, then like T3 is kind of where it's at. Like there's really very little reason to go past that point. But people are going to want to do it because they see their friends do it, or they see content creators do it, and they see all these videos on YouTube. It's like, I just farm I farm T4 with, 2 fingers and one hand behind my back and whatever like that. Like they're gonna see all these things, and then people are gonna get the FOMO and be like, well, I want to do T4 because this guy says it's easy, and I feel like I'm doing something wrong because if this guy says it's easy, then I must be a bad player. So there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna feel the FOMO for not farming T4. But the reality is there's no reason to do it. Like outside of clout, like there is none. In my opinion.
If you wanna be cool like DieoxidE guys, you put on these glasses, and then you go on your Heartseeker rogue with 2,000 HP and then farm Torment 4. But no, to be real though, I guess I think what DieoxidE said is true. Like there is not a substantial difference in rewards or something like that. I think in actually many cases, you will probably be more efficient staying on Torment 3 than going to Torment 4. And what do you get? You get like another, I don't know, 10 or 15% more XP, and probably drops, and that's basically about it. And this is not a huge step up in rewards compared to the time that you lose by just fighting stuff longer, boss fights taking longer or whatever. If your build is not Omega blasting, you're probably better off in Torment 3 in almost every single case. It's going to be easier, you survive easier, and so on. It's mostly just like a psychological thing, like, hey, yeah, I can do Torment 4, but the reality is it probably doesn't matter much.
Yeah, Lucky, thank you so much for bringing this up, actually.
It's a good point.
I feel kind of bad about me not coming up with that point and noting it down. So thank you so much for bringing this up, because I have to agree fully with what DieoxidE and Woody said here. You do not need to do Torment 4, and it is. I mean, when we have been doing bosses, we have been doing them on Torment 3, just because we were just so much faster. And I mean, if Woody is happy with doing bosses on Torment 3, that has to tell you something. Yeah, you don't. If Woody is not worried about doing bosses on Torment 3, then you shouldn't be either, right? If we wanna have that statement out there.
I mean, you remember that Iron Chunk conversation earlier, right?
Yeah. But it's.
I mean, my average masterwork level was like 1.5. You know,
Yeah, that's true. We have to be honest about this. Yeah, if the gear had a lot of the gear had a lot of room to grow for sure. But yeah, I mean, going to Torment, being in Torment 3 is probably already a feat of strength when it comes to that, and being there and just blasting in Torment 3. And I do really like that everyone has this aspirational thing of like, oh, maybe this season I can make a build that goes to Torment 4 and is going to farm efficiently there, right? I really like that thing that is optional, but it gives you the aspiring content of, I want to go there to get that little bit more rewards and generate more of the stuff that I'm currently generating. I do really like that we do have something like that in the game that makes you trying to improve and getting better, because I also think that's a huge part of making an ARPG a fun experience.
Yeah, maybe speaking about the difficulty stuff again, I think it wouldn't be so bad if like Torment 4 was harder, or if you had like more Torments after that are just kind of like, they're so hard that you really don't want to go there, you know, like even like a Quill Body, a Spiritborn or something like decked out. I think it's always good to have like a higher ceiling in the difficulties that is not necessarily more rewarding, or like much more rewarding, let's say, right? Okay, they have to add like a little bit at least, right? But you can just, kind of like how the pit used to work, right? Like pit in season 4 was like the Neve Iron farm, and then after pit 100 you just didn't really get more, and you got a little bit more, you know, it was still fine, but you know, like if a build pops up that suddenly farms like 50 tiers higher than all the other builds, it's not like the only thing you can play because the rewards keep scaling to infinity, right? And I think this is exactly how they probably should keep doing this in the future as well. You know, I don't think that necessarily even the target should be that everyone reaches Torment 4. I think most people will not reach Torment 4, even if they do play an S tier build, just because they, you know, will not invest enough time, or they will, you know, not like fully, you know, set up their character to actually go all the way there. And that's totally fine. You go to Torment 1, you progress to Torment 2, like everyone will do that. And, you know, if you keep playing, you will go to Torment 3 on basically every build. And then you kind of, you know, then it's kind of like coming to like a halt, I guess, for most people, somewhere around that time, depending on how much you play. And I think that's totally fine. I think it's always important to have like this higher end ceiling of difficulty, just to give people something to do, you know, something to chew on, you know, even if it's like only for tryhards. I think there's not really a reason not to do that.
I'm very happy that they did exactly that with the pit tiers, that we got the extra 50 on top. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, I don't know if we can hit 100 after the last round of patch notes and stuff like that. But I mean, it's definitely a good feeling to be like, oh, 150. Okay, let's actually see if 100 is going to be impossible. And if you do that 101, you're gonna be like, ha, I did it, right? And then you can see how far you can actually go. So that's going to be a great addition. I do have to agree here fully. Yeah.
I can almost see Lucky's face when we're talking about pits. I don't know. I feel like we need other better opportunities or better activities to be able to test our character's strength and gear. I think pit is just not it. I know that's what we have. I mean, it is what we have, and like we want to be able to test our, you know, hundreds of hours of, you know, tailoring every piece of gear as possible, and like the pit kind of gives you that feeling of doing it. But the pit is just such an awful like metric at the moment, just because of how imbalanced the bosses are. It's just, oh man, like I would love to see at least something like what Woody said earlier, like about a month and some change ago. Like, I mean, I almost think Infernal Horrors would be a better way of being able to do something like that, where you can, you know, you can kind of keep scaling until you kind of just run out of time, or, you know, you have the overwhelm mechanic from D3 or something like that. I think that would be cooler, because you can't really fish for that. Like you're forced to play until the time runs out. Like you can't just go, oh, I'm gonna try to get the best scenario possible and say, hey, look how good I am. You know, like that sucks. I know I'm being negative here, but like when I found out that they were scaling or they were just opening up to like 150 for, for pits, where obviously it's impossible to reach there. Now we're kind of back to that. That's where the metric is for all of our builds. Like, what pit tier can this build do after 500 tries or whatever? And that's just so silly of a metric, in my opinion. Yeah. But I'm going to leave it at that.
I think another issue with that is their decision to lock glyph leveling and progression behind the pits. And I don't agree with the decision that they made, because it doesn't make sense to me in terms of the progression of your character. Because if you are going through and you're leveling up your glyphs and you've already gotten your glyphs to like max level, that means you've already accomplished like level tier 90 of the pits, and now you're left to start masterworking and finishing off your gear, tempering everything. Obviously, you would have needed to have some tempers and some masterworks to get there, but you're going to be maxing out your glyphs before you're done your item chase. Like, that is the ultimate chase in Diablo 4 and will be in the newest season. Once you've maxed out your glyphs, you're just going to be stuck doing like trivial content to finish off your items and your masterworks. Whereas if you did transition it to something like the Infernal Horde, which I really like that idea, you can be tailoring your rewards from that the entire time. Say you need to level your glyphs. Okay, I'm leveling my glyphs this time in the Infernal Horde. Then you need your masterworking materials or your, things to reset your tempers. You could just use that as a reward. Like when we had all those options in the Infernal Horde system to get what you want, it makes much more sense to me, a system designed that way, that versus like, okay, you have to do the hardest content in the game just to get your glyphs done, and then everything else that you do at this point is just going to be absolutely trivial and like you're just going to blow it all over. It doesn't make sense progression wise to me, the decision that they made. So
it seems disconnected.
Yeah,
this is like the D2 player talking there, I think, and because
I'm a D2 player.
Actually, yes. Like to me, actually, I kind of like this glyph change. To be honest, I think it's kind of like more of the thing that people expect to eventually, quote unquote, finish their character and like have the chance to like get everything perfect and so on. Like we have primals in Diablo 3, and people like these days we have great affixes in Diablo 4, and people love their shinies, right? And similar, you have always the expectation, okay, you make a build, you level your glyphs to 21, then you're done with that. But I think the expectation should no longer be that you are finishing your glyphs. I think very, very few people will actually ever reach their glyphs to level 100. And I think this is not such a bad system after all, because it actually gives you something to chew on. It's kind of like what I described earlier with like, most builds will not do pit 100 or close to it. You have to get pretty close to pit 100 in order to get your glyphs to 100. And most builds will just not do that. The S tier builds, okay, easy clap. And some A tier builds will also finish their glyphs to 100 probably. And after that, I guess we're probably looking at builds that will just not finish their glyphs. And I think that's okay.
I think the idea of leveling your glyphs in an environment that will eventually require you fishing to be able to do it just seems so disconnected for like I'm
not saying that the pit is like well designed in that sense, right? Like they have this imbalance. Like for example, Diablo 3 Greater Rift pushing was just a ton more fun than the pit pushing, right? I have barely done pit pushing in Diablo 4, and in Diablo 3, the solo pushing was all I did. This is why people watched me, right? And now it's like, okay, what do I do here? I don't know. I make builds and have fun, I guess. And
but I think that's what Lucky's saying. I think overall is just like if there was a better in-game loop to be able to continuously chase those glyph upgrades that was a little more involving or more fun or whatnot, then it wouldn't be an issue. I think the concept of it is fine. Like the concept of it taking a while to get your glyphs to that point is fine. It's just where it's located.
So basically, what you're saying is you want 1% glyph upgrades everywhere.
Well, who knows? I don't know. It's just. Go ahead, Chronikz. I'm sorry. You haven't said anything yet.
I gotta be honest. I do like the idea of a pit, but I do not like the current execution of it. I do like opening a portal, going somewhere, blasting through mobs, and then having to also find an end boss. The problem that I'm missing is I need something that engages me and not my build. I need something to think of and show my expertise in the game during the pit run. And I don't think that we will never get something like that. Pit is also in its early stages compared to Helltide. Yeah, there is maybe where we are going to have something like the pylon system that you had to manipulate and play around in D3, where you had a lot of expertise in like, how do I pull stuff together? When do I use the pylon? I think the base concept of the pit is there. It just needs that level of complexity on top of it. And I think also having the glyphs being able to be leveled up in the pit is also then going to be fine. And I do think we're all going to start enjoying the pit more, because it's not just mindless blasting through, watching what the end boss is, and then, I'm out, right? I think the way to the boss is also extremely important. For example, if you compare the bosses in D3 to what we have now in the pit, I like the pit bosses way more. You have to dodge a lot of stuff. You have to do anything. It is some sort of mastery. You have to know what every shadow apparition is going to do when you are at the boss. But I think the way to the boss needs some help in terms of a layer of complexity. And then I'm totally fine with leveling my glyphs in the pit and also starting to push. Curious to hope that we get something added to it that does that for us.
Are you guys expecting to hit Paragon 300?
Oh, I don't even care about it at all. I'm not even going for it. I'm just
not really a reason to.
I end up where I end up, for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I was actually considering, I was thinking, okay, what do we do? We want to do maybe some event, Maxroll event, which I have actually not announced yet, but we're going to do some Dark Citadel stuff, by the way. But we were considering the options, and one of them was Paragon race. And then I was like, okay, number one, who would want to race for Paragon 300?
Miserable.
Certainly not me. I was like, okay, who else? Yeah, it's like, wow. And then also, who would like to watch that? It's like, okay, yeah, sure. At some point, in 3 weeks or something, we're gonna see some little news article pop up on some obscure gaming site that will say first Paragon 300 reached, by Rob 2628. Yeah, and we're like, okay, nice. We knew that anyway. So it's like, okay, yeah, you just farm in front of the horde all day long, I guess, with sigils from your viewers, and that's it, right? So yeah, Paragon 300. I mean, they did make the Paragon levels a bit more rewarding, though. Like, for example, when you look at the PTR, Paragons, it was like, okay, you get to 200 or 230 or something, relatively fast, and then you just don't care anymore, right? And everything was kind of useless. And now they actually said, they actually made it so that all the way to 300, you actually do get some stuff. It feels like, okay, you are making progress very slow, but it will feel pretty good to eventually unlock this extra rare cluster, at Paragon 280, and then the next one at 285 or something like that. And it's gonna be kind of nice to eventually just get this. Oh, nice, I got a little thing there. Oh, nice, I got a little thing there. It's just gonna be 2 weeks in between for most people for these little things to happen.
Yeah, I mean. Outside of maybe a very few setups, I mean, it's basically just watching the number go up. It makes people feel good that when they when they logged in, they were Paragon 253. They didn't find anything for the 4 or 5 hours they were playing, and now they're 258. And it's like, I made progress today, and that feels good. And I mean, honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. That's exactly what D3 was at the end of the day. People did grind the hell out of Paragon, and didn't even do anything or push with it. They just seen the number go up, and that's exactly what made them continue to play over and over. That's their thing, sure, right? But I think it's there in a sense where people can feel like they're making some sort of progress every time they log in, and so it succeeds on that aspect, but there's also just way more issues with Paragon that I won't really get into, because that isn't really the topic. The topic was just getting to 300, right?
We need to make a Paragon podcast.
Clearly I have a lot less experience with D3 than you guys, but I played a decent amount. I didn't play the season where they capped Paragon. Comparatively, how long did it take? Was it 800 they capped it to? How long did it take to get to 800 that season versus 300?
I mean, that was okay, if you start blasting at breakfast, you're going to be 800, for the afternoon.
Okay, all right, yeah. So that's what I compare.
Yeah, that was way faster for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was like the Paragon cap in Diablo 3 was actually like a pretty well received season. And I think also like, putting a cap on the Paragon is really important. I think they were definitely wise to not make it infinite or anything like that. Even though we couldn't really put the points anyway, right? We could just pick up like 5, literally +5 main stat, right? If they make it infinite. And in Diablo 4 now, I mean, it would be literally just +5 main stat at some point. This is actually how we built some of our Paragon boards on the PTR, right? When you had like we were thinking about what do you do with those 300 points, because everything just kind of sucked. You just literally take +5 main stat.
It's literally again.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got to that point again.
Yeah, we come full circle.
We come full circle when we complained about it so much in Diablo 3 for a decade, almost a decade. It was just like, I don't know, man. I think it's I guess it's neat that it makes it easier to be able to build Paragon boards now. For the average player, you're not having to worry about carefully crafting something or messing up your routes or whatnot. So like it's easier to understand and easier to build a board in a sense. But they took away any. Well, once they took away, there really wasn't much creativity on the Paragon boards anyway. But I think it's a missed opportunity in Paragon in general, because all it really is just an extension of your gear, right? It's just like the stuff that you can already get in your gear, you're now getting on Paragon, which is basically more damage. Like, multiplicative damage here, multiplicative damage here. It's the same glyph, basically, just multiplicative damage with a different condition, or no conditions at all, right? It's not interesting whatsoever. It doesn't change anything that your character does, right? So like it's a pretty boring progression system that I just can't for the life fathom why they have left it in the state. Sure, maybe down the line they might do a rebrand of that at some point, but right now it's just kind of like how do we come full circle to what D3 technically was, and Paragon is now is this cap, right? And it's just
I can't wait for Paragon 3.0, to be honest. I was actually like when they did the Paragon rework, and then we saw like the first things, or like they heard the first things, right? I was like, oh man, finally, I was like, this Paragon system, like there's like so many weird things, and I would say it has probably improved, but it did not really go the direction I wanted to go at all. So I was like hoping we'd get way fewer points, smaller boards. I would have liked to like all this like random traveling around and stuff. So I think this could all just be like reduced, for example, right? Like, why do we have to click 300 points, man, every time I respec my build? Like, you just sit there for like 15 minutes clicking the nodes, and I can do it much faster than most people, right? I know where I need to go and what is good and whatever, and I don't need to look at the planner for every single point. But many people probably do that, right? Point by point, they check Maxroll, and then they check the game, and then they click 1, 2, 3, and then they check again, right? And I can just imagine that this is like completely boring and annoying. And like I'm really surprised that this was not improved. In fact, it got worse. We got more points now, So this is I mean, okay, like for what it does, I think what Paragon does, and if the number go up and all that stuff, it is kind of in a good spot with like how much it like fits into the progression, like as you go through Torment 2 and Torment 3 and so on. Like the Paragons do help you a lot with like pushing you forward, just kind of by like naturally with your character, right? You don't need to find really crazy gear. You don't need to like do everything. You just get like an extra legendary node here, an extra glyph there, and then again, and then again. And it will like help you to like bridge those gaps, and that feels pretty good. The progression felt good, but the points and the whole system behind it, I don't like at all with the way it's currently set up.
Yeah, when I heard legendary glyphs, I was like, oh, that is going to be good, because you have these glyphs that you only use on certain builds that dominate or like stuff that overpowers or increases overpower damage, for example. I was like, maybe that is going to add an effect to what the glyph is actually used for. So you can actually do something different than as soon as you hit that level 46 on your glyph, suddenly your build that you've been using changes in some way, shape or form, where you can, I don't know, you can suddenly also profit off of other things, or it changes the skill or the type of damage somehow, where you can just add a new way of playing what you've been playing up until that point.
Maxroll made a good example of this. I'm not sure if you saw it in the other podcast, like, some weeks back. And he said, for example, the darkness glyph on the necromancer, when it's legendary, maybe it just adds darkness tag to all your skills, similar to like how the spirit hold works for the spiritborn or something. And like imagine stuff like that, for every single glyph. I mean, of course, this was out of the scope of like PTR and then launched 1 month later, I think. But I think this is much more what I would like to see as well. So that would be cool. And not every glyph needs to be like just the typical, let's say quote unquote balanced plus 10% damage or something, right? Yeah, in one damage. Form or another.
Everything says damage.
Yeah, exactly. It's just damage in like it's like this. The same thing that we had in the past. You have like 2,000 different damage types and nothing matters because you just pick whatever works and it's just 10% damage, 10% damage, 10% damage, 10% damage. And it's like, nice. Yeah. Great.
I'm 10% stronger than I was.
No. But there's a 15% damage though. You missed that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a condition.
You play rogue.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's good stuff, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this was like definitely a huge missed opportunity there on the like if you look at like, for example, Diablo 3 and legendary gems, right? This is basically the system of Diablo 3. Like the legendary gems are the glyphs, and now even more so with like the whole like upgrade through the pit, and it's literally Diablo 3 at this point. It's just we have a lot more glyphs in Diablo 4, but all of them are like just like way less interesting. Diablo 3 legendary gems were just. They had cool effects. I mean, we often defaulted to like the most DPS choices. But if they had ever like balanced them out a little bit, maybe nerf the DPS ones, buff the utility ones, or whatever, they could have actually had like a really cool variety of different effects in Diablo 3 and the legendary gems. There were like some that proc under certain conditions, that do a certain thing, that give you certain stats. Some that actually have their own damage output. Some procs, and all the stuff is completely missing from the glyph system. And it's like so bland. It's just like damage in one form or the other, or maybe some damage reduction in some cases, right?
Yeah. And maybe the problem is that there is damage because there are actually some conditional, like if you think like exploit or something that applies vulnerable instead of giving you damage like that. But the fact that you're like, are you going to pass Are you going to pass up damage to get it though? And a lot of the times you're just going to take the damage, and so it reduces our choices because. By giving us the opportunity to just get more damage 9 times out of 10, everyone's just going to do that. And there aren't enough of the options like an exploit glyph where you can change your gameplay in a meaningful way.
Honestly, I wouldn't have minded if they had just like kind of deleted half the glyphs of a class and we have like fewer options, but make them like cool kind of class specific kind of stuff, like what we said with like the darkness glyph, adding the darkness tag, or like you can have like a trap glyph that that enhances your traps in some way, or make them a bit like the vampiric powers maybe, or something like that, where maybe even like like you can proc stuff, or you like suddenly your evade changes to something else, or you something like that, right? I would have liked to see that kind of like vampiric power system more than just the glyphs that we have now, and then maybe still give us a way to like ramp up the power of like leveling them and stuff like that.
I just kind of enhance the craziness of the things instead of just number go up, right? That's definitely something that would be insane. Like the trap stuff that you talk about. I know this goes way too much into PoE, but imagine you socket in the glyph and now everything you do is converted into a trap. A literal trap, right? Like your penetrating shot is now a trap or some stuff like that. I know it goes way too far into the PoE direction, but this sort of craziness would be amazing for the Paragon system because you get the complexity at the very end of the progression with level 46. At that point, you can already play the game, you can handle the complexity, and then you're probably also happy that you get the complexity because now you can play that other thing that you weren't able to play before.
Ballista Rogue, log in. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Man, like
just
10 shots of trap now. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, just thinking about stuff like that just makes me happy that this could be a possibility, but also sad that it's not in the game. Yeah, that's kind of definitely something that I feel passionate about when it comes to that.
Don't worry, guys. Paragon 3.0. Yeah, at some point.
Oh no!
I'm glad that they identified that Paragon was an issue and that they're trying to change it. I just don't think it's there yet. It was changed, and they know it's, it could be improved. So I'm hopeful that they will keep improving on it.
Lucky, thank you so much. Go ahead,
it just needs to be, just progression. Any small improvements is fine, but when you start to regress, it gets concerning. And I feel like that's what this is so far. I feel like the newest Paragon system we got right now is a regression from what we had, and even that wasn't good. So you're right. Yeah, they are going to improve on it. It's just can we go improve little by little?
Maybe it could actually get kind of a bit towards that step, at least if they took a pass on every single glyph, and then literally just remove the the legendary effect or the secondary effect, and make them more for example, the snare glyph on Rogue, where you have a larger. I
actually like snare. Snare was pretty cool.
Yeah, the snare is cool. It's one of these cases the exploit, the snare. It can be small stuff like that. And it can still be level the glyph, number go up, sure, for the primary effect or something. But at least make the other effect something, more unique, and something you can choose, there's this little thing, and this, something that feels good, right? Snare just feels good, right? An exploit glyph, it just feels good, right? And plus 10% damage does not feel good, it's just damage. So it's it can be something that it doesn't have to be very complex. It's just oh, my traps are larger now, cool, oh, I perk vulnerable on my first stage, cool, So it doesn't have to be Omega, Rainbow, Proctiles and things or whatever. And it can just be something that you just don't get somewhere else. And it's in a conscious choice. Okay, I can choose this perk or I can choose that perk, and they feel good.
Yeah, the problem we are currently bound by damage. Yeah, Lucky said it correctly. You can't, even if you would put it in the game right now, we would be sorry, can't use. If it doesn't create a completely different build, yeah. So, Paragon 3.0 at some point for sure. How's it looking? Are we ready to move on to chat questions? Can do the chats already? I already have some of the questions ready, so maybe I'll start it off. What do you guys expect for the future of white, blue, and rare items? Does anyone feel strongly about those? Else I'll just start it off. Because
I'm not confident that the devs know what to do with them. I don't think that any meaningful changes are going to come to them anytime soon. I wouldn't even know at this point in the state of Diablo 4 how they could possibly even fit in. I had pitched them a few ideas. At least if you want to use a rare item, don't make it so painful to use for you can only temper it once or something like that. Maybe since the rare item is missing a mod, then you could temper it 3 times to make up for it in some way. There's got to be something else that you can do. But I think based on the feedback that I receive, a lot of players just don't even want to worry about it. They don't want another thing to pick up, because we're getting flashbacks to launch Diablo 4, which was inventory clutter. You have to go to the vendor every time. And now all of a sudden, if there's value in whites, blues, and yellows, then you're just going to be filling up your inventory so much quicker. And without a loot filter, it's going to feel very, very bad if now you have to pick up every single thing that drops again. So it's in the current state of Diablo 4, I think they should just keep them out, which is coming from a D2 player. We love all of our items. We love our whites, blues, yellows, everything. But it doesn't work in Diablo 4, not this game that we play. It's keep them out, honestly, at this point.
That's also exactly what's happening as soon as you reach Torment. So
everything's getting auto salvaged, exactly. And I do have to agree with Lucky. I think that the idea that you could do something with rares, or you could even do something with common items or magic items, and then originally 4 years ago or something, they said actually that magic items will roll with higher stats, and maybe there would be a reason to run them or something. But effectively, what it will do is just that, we have a way more complicated way of achieving exactly the same thing that we already do with our characters, which is just, get the most, numbers, right? Get the most damage. And, if the blue item turns out to have 5% more damage for your build, then you're going to use that. and that's the end of the story, right? And it won't really do ever like anything interesting. So I don't really mind that we don't care about white and blue and yellow items, and just as Lucky said, just keep them out. And maybe down the line they will like revamp the loot again or whatever. But I think it's generally like a relatively solid system now. It's just that I would also rather just not pick up a bunch of stuff and look at more stuff in my inventory. And it's like, we already have like all these legendary items. You can't get rid of the legendary items. You can't leave them on the ground. They come to your stash and they're gonna haunt you. And you guys know that cardboard animation from launch day, man? Like where the items wake up and walk to your stash. Exactly, man. I had exactly these kind of flashbacks, like playing the early access already. And I actively wanted non-ancestral gear. Because of
only
the
send me ancestral gear, please.
Yes, only send me ancestrals. Yeah, but it's like, man. Yeah, it's just like to finish that point really quick. It's just like, okay, we already have all this crap that we pick up that I don't want because I know it doesn't have a GA on it, doesn't have a star, so it's just gonna go to the vendor. At least, after the first progression, after playing a little bit, you only really care about ancestrals. You're not really going to care about anything else. That's the reality. And you already have to deal with all that stuff and just like auto salvage it every time. And I find that already annoying.
Sorry, Chronikz. I think you mentioned the topic about runes, and we never actually never actually discussed runes.
It's good. That's fine. We can come to it in a second because I think it's going to be a short topic anyway. I wanted to comment on this as well. I think in the late game, normal magic and rare items don't really have a place in D4, and Woody actually said it really well. It's just a more complicated way of achieving the same thing. In other games, it's handled a little bit differently, and it makes sense there more. But what I am kind of missing a little bit is the dopamine hit that you get when you find a good item during leveling. And I think by being decked out in legendaries at level 15, you kind of miss that a little bit. Because when let's say you're in early Torment 1, early Torment 2, you find an ancestral, you go like, let's go, right? This is this big moment that you've been waiting for, even more so if it's like on an item slot that you're currently struggling with anyway, you go like, yes, finally, right? And I would love to transfer that feeling, even a little bit smaller, obviously, into the leveling phase. And I think you can do that by making the legendaries available a little bit later, and therefore also putting more meaning into the blue items. You don't have to cap it off by level, but I think it's okay if you're a fully blue geared character at level 7 or 8, and then if you find your first rare item, you're gonna go like, that's awesome, that's good, that's a good upgrade. But then again, it has to also be a good upgrade for that feeling to exist. It can't be just one more dex than you had before on your item. You maybe won't even just spend the time to right-click it real quickly, right? If it's just one more dexterity, you're not going to do it. So there needs to be some sort of benefit of you equipping the item to generate the feeling of, oh, let's go, I finally found a rare item. Of course, that is going to be done very quickly as soon as you level up. But then again, you have the same feeling when you start finding legendary items again. I think that's kind of missing a little bit.
It's a good point. And the Path of Exile developers actually talked about this when they were trying to make Path of Exile, and they took D2 as the baseline. In Diablo 2, you find all sorts of crap, and there's no loot filter. You drop like an oil potion and all scrolls and stuff that's completely worthless. But then that makes when you actually find a good item feel so much better. Now, all we're finding is legendary items. One legendary item versus another legendary item once you're in Torment or above. Like, you don't get that great feeling, I guess now the GAs are the differentiator. In a pool of just all legendaries, when you get a GA, it feels a little bit better. But they removed everything else that drops. And what happened was they said that the players didn't like it. They didn't react well to it because it was like the dichotomy of you need the trash to feel more rewarded when that really like good item drops. And I think that kind of ties into what you're saying, Chronikz, and it's almost like a psychology angle to the whole ARPG rather than like whether or not it makes sense logically to play that way. But we'll see how it works with all legendaries just dropping, and that's all you find all the time, and then they haunt you for the rest of your life, just like in your stash. But it's an interesting point.
Yeah, DieoxidE, to your point with the thoughts on runes, it's actually a chat question. That's why I back then actually brought it up. So it's
I
perfectly fitting.
I didn't want
right?
to like get off it. Okay.
No,
You're sure.
All good. Maybe do we have some strong opinions on rune words? I don't know if I'm even able to if I'm allowed to call them that when we have Lucky as a D2 player in the call. I don't know if that's even allowed to say, but at least we got some crafting now, right?
I think it was a great way. It's a great marketing tool to get you to buy the expansion.
Yeah, for D2 players.
I'm gonna
play
be honest with you. Yeah, and so like that was one of those ways where it's like, until you know exactly what's really happening with these runes, the fact that you heard the word rune words, you're super excited now, and you're probably more likely to buy the expansion. And they knew that.
I can't believe they didn't change them from like the alpha images of the rune words, basically. And I know you guys gave feedback. I did too on like that system, and they basically just held it back until the expansion and gave it to us then. Like it already existed. They showed us the exact runes and rune words that they put into the game, but they held it back because they wanted to flesh it out. And then they just put it into the expansion, said, okay, your rune words are here, and they didn't get fleshed out. And it's literally the same exact thing. So if you're talking about marketing tool, like that's what it feels like, right? Otherwise, like they didn't put any effort into changing them or making them more meaningful. They held them back artificially so that they could give them to us later when they told us, we were going to get them.
I think that's a bit unfair to say, because if you look at like the early version of like the runes that they have previewed at like Gamescom, BlizzCon, like I don't know, when was that, 2019 or something, right? Like when they first talked about the game, I think this is when they showed the runes. Is that what you're referring to?
Has the concept changed? Like the effects, sure, but has the concept changed?
Yeah, the concept. I mean, the concept is just a concept, and I think the concept is not bad the way it works. And they have actually fleshed it out quite a lot, I think, if you compare it to like the 5-year-old images that we got there. And I don't know, I personally kind of enjoy the rune system, I gotta say. Yeah, sure, it's not like Diablo 2's rune system, but I also didn't really find Diablo 2's rune system particularly crazy either. It was mostly just like, okay, you can just socket your gems or you can socket a rune, and most of the time you do a rune word, of course, but in the end it was mostly just like a passive stat that you add in one form or another, which didn't really add too much excitement to me. At least here we have actually the option to we trigger like a skill from another class, and okay, there were rune words that did that as well, right? And you can do the same with unique items if you really want in D4. If they ever want to design, now that they actually have like kind of the precedent for classes use other classes skills, you can also just make unique items to do that, right? And it will be the same thing as a rune word in Diablo 2. It's just without the clicking. So
yeah. The rune words in Diablo 2, I think overall were not good for the game, honestly.
And I fully agree with that. And everyone is like, "Oh man, my runes, my rune words, Diablo 4 runes are not like Diablo 2 runes." But I mean, who actually wants Diablo 2 runes? No,
I don't want Diablo 2 runes and Diablo 2 rune words, honestly.
I find the rune system actually pretty good, and the good thing is they can expand on it. Every season, I guess you're just gonna get a handful of new runes or whatever, and as long as they fix the inventory management of that, I'm actually going to be kind of fine with that, because it's going to be interesting to think about, okay, what do I put in? Like, what do I want? Like, this utility thing, that utility thing, whatever, right?
I think the first impression of it was bad, though, because we just ended up taking the most OP, like most blatantly overpowered offensive runes, and then that's it. No one cared about any of the other stuff, because before they nerf Warcry and Petrify like that, I'm like, who would not take Warcry in its previous form? Who would not take Petrify in its previous form? So you have all these different types of effects of runes that no one would ever if they would never see the light of day, right? You would just use a main stat gem in your slot, because it was like, well, all the other ones aren't even good enough for me to consider that over a main stat gem. So what they did in the review build, the runes are definitely there's definitely more choices. I'll give it that. Like it's a bit more interesting than it was in their first impression. Still think they got some way to go on it, but
yeah. The best part.
Sorry.
No, the best part in the spirit, in terms of like spiritual successors to Diablo 2 rune words, is what like Woody and you guys said about being able to use like other class skills. I think is so that's fun, and that was like some of the most fun that people had with Diablo 2 rune words, was that having that ability, and it's just like that translated well into the current iteration of rune words that we have, and I do like that, and I will say it replaced a system that was not good. Like DieoxidE, you just said, like you're just gonna take base stat. Like that's not a good system. Like just Jules in general. Like just get rid of the sockets at that point.
Or, not interesting enough.
I don't care about. I just have to put a jewel in in this hole. Like there's no theory crafting involved in that for the most part. Like I am minimizing it a lot, but it is a lot better than gems. So that's definitely
Yeah, and I think also like the way that's implemented in Diablo 4 with like, if you play a class and you take the rune word that actually buffs something of your own class or you proc something of your own class, then you can amplify that, right? You can put the skill ranks, you can put the tempers, and we have the Saccades, for example. A lot of my Spiritborn builds actually run the Vortex rune, even though it's a Spiritborn skill, but I just don't really have to slot on it on the bar. So boom, I do it myself with the rune, and I put a temper. And it feels really good. And then, other classes I was like, they could run Vortex, but it's going to be kind of weaker. And like, is it really worth that slot, or do you want to go for something else? And, you always have these decisions to make now compared to the gem system. I fully agree. And I think especially if they balance it out a bit more, now that we have seen the post-PTR changes, I think a lot of runes have definitely moved up in like viability. And with like Warcry nerf and Petrify nerf as well, like it definitely opens up the space. And I think that devs have also understood that people want more of this kind of like cool stuff and less of the just like, okay, you do like 10% more damage from the rune, right? So I guess they will also not really introduce like just plain damage runes that much when it comes to more runes that they are adding in the future. So I think they definitely are aware that okay, there is the Warcry, it's like just one thing. And it is kind of costly, and then many builds don't necessarily even go for it unless they really want to have the giga, boss damage for tormented bosses or something, and that's it. But when you always have to like consider the overall like play style, through even like a pit run, right? Like most of the time, like having some utility choice that actually like Vortex pulls stuff in, like can be really good, and it feels good as well. So I think they did a good job with the rebalance, and I'm really excited to see what else they're gonna do with runes.
Yes. Cutting Petrify and Warcry was amazing for the whole system in itself. And just being able to fix your build's weaknesses with like one or the other rune word. Imagine, for example, Minion Necro has a little bit of trouble getting crit capped. You can use the crit rune word, which is like super funny because it's actually magic. And you go like, I'm using a magic item in my absolute end game build because it opens up so many other opportunities for other stuff to fix in a different way. When I saw that, I was like, this is great. This is exactly what we need. 20% crit is probably not amazing for a lot of builds. Probably not a lot of builds are going to run it. But for certain builds, you go like, this is exactly what I want, right? And this even is a damage stat, but done in a very cool way. It's not too much. It's not oppressive, but it's just right to be able to put your skill points a little bit different, use your stats a little bit different on your rings, and therefore have a much easier time to crit cap. Although now you have to press evade every 5 seconds on Minion Necro, but I guess I do that anyway. So yeah, but I like the system of like the sword that you brought up, Woody. That is going to be hopefully the direction we're going to go for the next runes that are coming. And it doesn't have to be necessarily another class's skill, like the Spirit Wolves, for example. Yeah, they're a completely different concept from what I understand. Maybe there is more stuff like that coming in the future, yeah? Which introduces something completely different that is not available to a class without the rune.
What do you think about the rune crafting with the mythic items?
Now we have glasses. Now everyone has glasses.
All I could find. I have glasses around. Everyone keeps commenting on it. I don't know where my glasses went. I do have a pair around here. So.
Kind of funny that we three have these glasses as well, right? That's kind of interesting. Yeah, rune crafting. I think it's kind of cool that by introducing the rune crafting, you were able to also introduce a Resplendent Spark gambling. You can do that with the 2 Resplendent Sparks. You can kind of go like, well, I only have 2 Resplendent Sparks. I'm not really a big boss enjoyer, so let's see what I get. But then you also have the deterministic approach with the same amount of Resplendent Sparks and some runes that you need to grind for. I think that's an amazing shift from what we had before.
I actually think that change will, based on the game that I played in, the Vessel of Hatred, early review access, gold did not feel like a bottleneck to me. I did not feel like if I had a good item that I would even want to change it for gold. I had like 2 billion gold and I had nothing to do with it. One, because the resources were so restrained, but gold didn't feel valuable to me, but runes all of a sudden did. So I think that there's a world possibly, now I have to see how it all plays out, where now runes are the currency that you're trading items for potentially, because you're going to keep wanting to grind to get like your perfect GAs on your mythic uniques if your build uses it, which a lot of builds still will. And I could see a world where now runes are the currency that we trade items for and not gold, which could be confusing for the community. But I really didn't feel the gold bottleneck at all when I was playing in Vessel of Hatred, and I wouldn't trade anything for gold. Honestly, it's going to be worthless to me. But I don't know if you guys felt the same about gold or if you could see that. But it was could be an effect of that crafting system that
I think there's I think the gold not feeling valuable is just because you didn't have access to like the high end stuff, right? You didn't do masterwork resets. You didn't do like the cures out of city with 50 million gold a pop for the amulets and stuff like that, right? So I guess realistically, gold will still be relevant. There will be gold sinks and so on. But yeah, like I generally do have to say that I like this idea behind this crafting of mythics being more involved now with the runes. And I do think that we're going to see something like what Lucky just described. It's going to be like, hey, I have a live rune, and I want at least like 3 Om runes for that, or something like that, right? Like, this is like top tier rune, goes into like half the builds, and you need it for like, crafting a Shaco, or, or materials actually, right? Like this thing is going to be so much worth, right? Compared to like, getting the other runes. And there's going to be like this kind of like, trading interaction with that. And I think that's really cool. I really like that. I think the main problem I have with the whole system is that I felt runes were kind of like too easy to get, like even like on the legendary ones. You blast the tremendous bosses, they will start dropping. And, I had some copies of some of the legendary runes, even without really trying to get them, let's say, after some time. And I would like to see the runes just being like more rare, so that you are forced to do more kind of like just use what you got kind of thing, right? Like, I would actually like to be forced to just, like, go all the way to turn 4 with, just using the runes that I found, like, whatever wacky stuff I can think of with the combo I got, like, every once in a while I find a rune and, like, maybe I can use that one now. And then I find another one, okay, maybe I'll switch to this, I would actually prefer that a lot more. And then, like, lower the cost of the crafting, because you need, like, 6 copies of the same rune to craft one of the mythic items. And that definitely tells you that the rune drops are very plentiful, I guess, because else you would never even get to crafting one of these rings, right? So I would just like lower cost and lower rune drops, and then more kind of like wacky, progression stuff. I think this would be kind of fun.
Yeah, the only thing that I remember is with the runes that I had way too many of. I don't know, I got a multiple times whisper per day by maybe, have you this? Do you have this rune? Do you have this one? Can you give me this one? And like,
maybe
I don't know what he was doing. Was he was
DM everybody. Like, he was talking to people.
I don't know what he was doing there.
Different solar systems. Hey, you got that?
Yeah, okay, maybe for chat to get like some idea about this, right? So maybe it was probably one of the guys who blasted the most in this early access thing. Like he went ham, like even more than like any of us here, I think. And he was like really.
It was runes, not gold.
Yeah, exactly. He was actually stuck with the runes for the crafting, and he actually asked everyone every day about, can you get me this rune? Can I get this rune? So they are kind of rare, but I felt like also it was not that hard to actually get like some of the legendary runes and then actually like use exactly the stuff that I wanted.
Well, now we have more ways to get them with the Opal stuff now too, right? So like I think we'll have more access to being able to possibly get more runes.
Yeah, and I kind of fear that we're just gonna get flooded with these runes, and then it's like, they don't really feel that amazing when they drop you. Okay, you pick it up, it goes into your inventory and whatever, and it's not gonna be like this. Like even when a legendary one drops, I guess it's gonna be like, oh yeah, I have 1, but I actually need 6, so like I'm gonna keep grinding like for another 10 hours until I have the other 5 or something like that, and then that's it. So it's like I would like to have this like more rare, much more like, oh man, heck yeah, I got it, let's go,
I think so. I think for us, like as blasters, sure. I mean, because that's kind of the fun. The whole point is the chase, right? Chase for something rare. But like, I guess for like, let's say you're trying to craft the one mythic unique that you kind of need, making them more rare, just kind of, I won't say gate the casual player base, but a lot of builds right now do have multiple mythic uniques in generals that we ourselves write. So it's like we kind of put it out there. Hey, this is the in-game mythic unique setup, and there's like 2 or 3 different mythic uniques on there. So it's like people want that, right? So I feel like the way that they drop now, while it might feel like a bit for us, I think it's just right for the average person playing, because obviously they're not going to get nearly as much as as much as we are. And then that also kind of helps them be able to kind of get into trading initially, right? Because it's like, well, if you never get a legendary rune that was really rare, then you're almost kind of out of the trading loop now. So like you'll never learn how to get into trading for something other than gold. So you kind of want them to be more engaged with stuff like this. So it kind of has to have a better drop rate. Otherwise it's just going to be just for like the 1%, right? And that's not cool. The chase is fun, don't get me wrong. I agree with that, but it's like, I don't know if like keeping a large portion of the player base out of possibility of being able to craft maybe 2 mythic uniques all season would be a unfortunate thing. But like I said, crafting is now it's now with runes in mind now, so it's an important thing that has to kind of be more generous drop rate, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, he did say adjust it down so it doesn't cost 6 of each, right? But it still sounds like it would be like pretty hard. And the only way you can target your mythic now is with runes. You can't avoid the rune system and still do it. Otherwise, you just have to RNG it, randomly.
Yeah, I think in general it seems like they made like getting mythics a little bit harder. But then they also have like this, okay, only 2 sparks, but you also need the runes. So like at least if you're going for that and you're trying to either grind out those runes or you're trying to trade for those runes, then yeah, you will get there and you will craft the mythic of your dreams. And I guess like in general, like I don't know, at least mostly from a Spiritborn perspective, I wasn't even like putting that many mythics into my builds necessarily anymore. And I guess that depends a bit on the class. But I kind of feel like there were like a lot of options now, and it's like, okay, it's fine to have like one, you just go for that one, maybe those 2, and if you want a Starless maybe, or if you don't want a Shaco, and okay, that's about it. And we don't have to like stack like 4 mythics in like every bot build or something necessarily. And I think that's fine.
I don't know. I'm not so worried about rune income. I think a lot of bosses dropped them. Dark Citadel had 1 rune every boss. So if you run that with multiple characters or try to help people out, then you're probably going to get quite a lot of them. We didn't have access to the opal. And I do think that if we are going to get our masterworks up compared to the review access, blasting them in Torment 4 is also going to increase the amount of income we get for the runes. I'm not really worried about it. I haven't really interacted with the rune crafting itself, like crafting the runes up. So I still have to do that, but I also never really felt like I had to do it to get the rune which I needed for my build, which I think is a very good thing to have. Although when I looked at the menu for the rune crafting, I was very confused, especially now that the little mouse over tooltip does not show you the required materials anymore. I looked at the menu, tried to make sense of it for a second. I was like, okay, I'll look at it later. And then I was like, okay, that's a little bit too complicated.
I hate that, man.
It's such a change. That makes no sense.
Why was it done?
It's cleaner looking, but if you're trying to get any information from it, then by the way, you have to right click. If anyone is wondering, like if you encounter this, if you right click, it does show you the amount that you need, but it's not the default option, which is strange. And there's no way to change it to the default option.
Yeah, you can change between looking at the tooltip or looking at the cross, right? And
and then you can't see.
It's like, holy dude.
Yeah, and all of this confused me way too much. And I was like, yeah, well, I look into crafting the runes later. But then I was very happy that I never had to look into it because I had access to all the glyphs, to all the runes that I needed for any build, and without trading with anyone. So that was at least comforting, so that I don't have to like go out of my way to get the rune combination that I need. Okay, do we have any other chat questions.
I have a chat question, and it's for
Yes.
you, Chronikz, by our friend Barricade. Hello, our friend. He wants to know
Yes.
if you think minions builds are going to be able to clear Pit 80. Easy question for you.
Now, if they clear it,
I mean,
and I
we
say
were in
no,
that tier
then-
list. We were in the tier list meeting on Saturday.
yeah, is it gonna be? Yeah, it's gonna clear it. Yes, I think the cutoff for 80.
He's going to hold you to it.
That's good. I'll check his build out later. I saw he's going with Necro later, so I'll check out what he's doing.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Mendeln. We haven't been using Mendeln in ages, and when we were using it, it was completely crazy back then. So let's see how it goes, especially trying to make it proc off of our mercenaries. It's gonna be interesting. And the Spirit Wolves actually as well. I like the Spirit Wolves already. They have so much utility inbuilt with them. Leap, vulnerable, chill. They're amazing. And proc my Ring of Mendeln. Log in. Okay, one quick one. Is it really that quick? If Spiritborn is so good in everything, why would I try any other class during the season? Oh, that's gonna be. I mean, sure. That's a loaded one.
Because you don't need to do T4, like we said. Like everything can do T3. You'll be able to do T3 at a fine pace. If you don't like the journey of a Spiritborn, you can't get into it. It's not the fantasy you want to play out. You don't really have to play it. You're not going to fall too far behind. Maybe you won't be able to max out your glyphs, but it's not that much of a power difference. But yeah, currently it's a bit overtuned. Spiritborn's really, really strong. But I think you should at least try it. It felt like a very rewarding playing experience. It felt like a character that they poured a lot of time into and were very thoughtful about it. So I would encourage trying it, but if you just have no interest, it's not going to be a big problem for you. I don't think T3 is fine. Like we all said earlier in the call.
Yeah, I also want to chime in on this because I see this question in my chat as well about, okay, what is the incentive to then make another class? Why would I play a druid? And yeah, okay, druid doesn't really look like the craziest class this season, but they still have like decent builds, and they are still playable, even all the way into like Torrent 4. Even the druids will reach Torrent 4 if you go all the way. It will be harder and stuff, but sure, it works. And I think everything after Torrent 4 is just kind of like, there isn't only the pit, right, as like a difficulty tool, let's say, to scale up further, and this is only like a small part of what you actually do, and that's it. And everything else you can do with all classes, I think. So yeah, outside of like Torrent 4 just not mattering that much, everyone will get there with at least the good builds on the weaker classes. So I don't think it's such a concern.
I don't know if I'm allowed to do another one, but I have another good one coming up here in my chat because I have the T4 Hardcore Dark Citadel stuff also in the title, a little bit in the back, but still. Ovian is asking you, Woody, directly. What do you recommend hardcore players that aren't so good as you for the raid? And are you going to try it on softcore first? And how are you going to practice the raid? And what's your plans going into the raid for the hardcore stuff?
Okay, I mean, first of all, I have played the raid. So I have seen it, and I have actually done it 3 times, I think, or 2.5, let's say. I think 2.5 times. And honestly, that was almost enough to kind of understand what is going on. And then the rest is just kind of a gut feeling of, how strong is a character for the difficulty that you're in. You want to be kind of you want to be at the point where you can do whatever difficulty you're doing very easily. And then you will not have much trouble in the Citadel, I would say. So if you're blasting through Torrent 3, then you will also do the Citadel Torrent 3. And even on hardcore, if you have already done the Citadel on Torrent 1 or Torrent 2, just try it on Torrent 1. You have all the time in the world to just one-shot anything there. No one will do damage to you. As long as you don't get one-shot by a certain mechanic that has the timer, and then the time runs out and then everyone dies or something. Yeah, okay, you need to be aware of that. And you want to have your button on the scroll of escape. in case something goes wrong or something. But outside of that, I mean, yeah, just do it on tournament 1 a few times, and then you will understand everything that's going on there. And the rest is just typical, okay, you have to like deal with the difficulty that is getting thrown at you in a higher tournaments.
Just don't bring DieoxidE to your party; he'll get you killed.
Yes,
there's proof.
Yeah, it is definitely a bit of a problem for like the hardcore players to do like a first time playthrough, because some things are not immediately obvious the first time you play it, and you kind of have to like connect the dots sometimes and stuff. But then the second time around, you know it, and it's fine. It's just like, the first time, I don't know, maybe just watch one playthrough. I literally uploaded a run, right? Just watch that run, and you will understand what is going on. So, yeah.
Okay, any other interesting questions that anyone can spot right now? Else we'll just call it. We do have a lot of work still to do, every one of us. So
there's one, but I don't know if I want to open a can of worms on that one. But there's been a lot of talk about it in the media, so just kind of it might be a pretty interesting topic to talk about. So, what are people's thoughts on the ideas of content creators having access to early access ahead of time and being able to make content on it?
I would actually prefer not having it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wouldn't prefer not being the only one not having it.
Yes.
I would prefer no one having it. That's
Yes.
just to clarify.
Yeah.
If I think it would be way cooler if like no one did anything. It's just like, okay, it comes out and boom, let's go. That would be glorious, man. Yeah.
I like discovering stuff together, like as a community, and it does feel kind of like it ruins some of the surprise and some of the hype when people get to see it early. But at the same time, like if I get offered the opportunity, it's very hard to turn it down. Like it's exciting to play this stuff, and everyone else is getting to play it and experience it, and it's fun to be a part of. It's just like it happens at a different time for us sometimes. I would prefer if nobody had it, like Woody said.
I'm glad we all agree on that one.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat too as well. I don't even make any videos on any like preview or review type stuff or whatever. But I think on the other end of things too as well. I mean, there's a value, I guess, in content creators being free QA, I guess, which is essentially how Blizzard tends to want to do. Because I mean, we are able to find a bunch of stuff that they can kind of be like, okay, this doesn't work, this does work, this is whatever. So there's value there for them. So I kind of get the senses, and of course, like if I get asked to play, I'm gonna play. But I mean, obviously, I would rather not play as well. But I think at the very minimum, that like if there was ever any going forward and there was a choice, if early access is a thing, that it just be completely NDA and no one knows about it and you can't make any content on it. Like if Blizzard just wants to do more of a QA thing and like really try to find more things, more problems, more issues, it should just be just that, and that's it. Like we shouldn't be able to make content.
I think we should only
like,
invite people that actually don't do any content creation in that case. Just like invite some blasters that don't have any channels or whatever.
Yeah,
just
hire a QA team. Have them do.
I mean, you can make fun of QA all you want, but you're never gonna have like these Omega blasters. That just like rip everything apart, right? And a QA team, I guess. So I think you need to like literally just invite some people that have logged 3,000 hours in Diablo 4. Just like check the stats, invite those people, and that's it. And then get the feedback. And of course have other people as well, right? There should be like a range of feedback, let's say. But I guess we're not very concerned about the casual end of feedback for like Blizzard games in general and for Diablo 4. So it's always like the higher end stuff that is usually like kind of the missing part here. And I mean, if like just no one had access, I think it would be way more fun. It would be more fun. It would also be, honestly, you don't have to kill yourself trying to like get as much out of this early access, because as a content creator, of course, you kind of forced to do it, right? Like you get the early access, yeah, of course you play the early access, right? But I also need to stream, I also need to write guides, and I also do need this and this, and I also want to, maybe sleep at some point, which I haven't really done in many days at this point. So it's like, it
can come at a really unopportune time, like especially for me. Like I had to really make some choices because you only have 1 week, so it's like you can't like push it back or whatever like that. So you have to make sacrifices in time to be able to do said thing. But like I guess the reason why I really brought this topic up is because I know this has been like a pretty big thing across social medias I've seen, and like obviously streamers tend to get attacked because we got the access, or content creators got attacked. But I think I wanted to bring it up because I think that there is a chunk of us who actually do feel the same way, that whereas like we would prefer to none of us actually had access, but of course if we're asked to, we're going to take it, and that that's just the nature of things, right? But I think we kind of agree more with the player base than the people think. We don't think that we sit on this pedestal and like we deserve this type of access. Like that's not who a lot of us are.
I get why Blizzard does it, right? It makes sense for them, but they could take any blaster and you get the same kind of feedback, right? It doesn't need to be a content creator. You don't have to, give them the ability to make content. I don't think that we're that special and that we're the only ones that can provide valuable feedback. I do think that it results in a more polished game, once it comes out. Like I do think that having that helped, but I don't think that it's anything that they specifically needed this group of people to do and also make content around, but they do it because of the free publicity, right? So like you said, we're not that special.
As a blaster, imagine I would have loved being able to go into the Dark Citadel completely blind and figure it out in a team of 4 on hardcore, and then killing it, I don't know, after failing like a couple of times, and then imagine taking it down on hardcore after like several weeks of trial and error and doing it on hardcore. That feeling at the end when you make it is worth everything to me. Yeah. And I also have to kind of like say that not really me because I'm a small content creator, but for like the bigger content creators, it would be the worst business decision ever to say, yo, I'm not going to create any content on the review axis because other competitors would do so. So you have to kind of like keep that in mind if you're a viewer and if you see people instead of businesses, especially for the bigger creators. It's just not possible for them to say no to this. It would be pretty stupid. Therefore, the correct way to go forward is to not offer those people, but we will have to see what's gonna happen in the future. Yeah.
Fair.
Maybe that's a good topic to close it out. I wanted to say thank you to everyone. DieoxidE, Woody, Lucky, Luciano, thank you guys so much for joining me. Maxroll guides are being updated as we speak. When this video goes live on YouTube, you can check Maxroll. It's probably all updated. I think everyone here has still some work to do. We're going to get to it. So thank you guys.
I've been working on one of my guys, right? Throughout this entire podcast.
I got at least 17 pings during this podcast.
Oh no. Okay, so we're gonna release everyone. Thank you guys again for sharing your precious time in this crunchy time with me and with the viewers. Thank you, the chats. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is anyone streaming here?
No, I won't.
No.
Okay. I'm done. Do we just pile in on someone together? All of us.
I'm responsibly working, Woody. I'm being responsible and working on my guys.
Okay, can we find someone in the D4 category right now that we can just all raid at the same time? Maybe.
I don't know.
Say a name.
To say something.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, like, we were being critical, like, towards the end. But that's just because, like, we want the game to be the best that it can be. The Vessel of Hatred is an awesome expansion. You're going to love it. You're going to love playing it. Like, the Diablo 4 is in the best place that it's ever been. And we ended on a bit of a critical note because these are things that we're constantly thinking about, like, playing through the game. And we just always want to be focused on making the game better. And the game wouldn't be in the state that it is now if people didn't have those kind of conversations. So I don't want you to come away with this as like being an overly critical conversation. It's just, food for thought. And I really enjoy having these conversations. So thank you for, inviting me to the podcast, and everyone have a blast, in season 6 in Vessel of Hatred.
Yeah. Happy release day. Do we just pile in on DM maybe? He's doing a campaign.
Yeah, let's do it.
Campaign story walkthrough and.
All right. GG's guys.
GG's everyone. Thank you.
All right, it's the DM. Okay.
Bye-bye, chats.
Have a good one, guys.